Welcome guests, teachers, principals, students. Very exciting. I'd like to move that we reconvene to public session. Is there a second on the part of the board? Let's see it. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Okay. We now invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Scott may be able to put a flag up for us.
I do. I'll be right with you with my flag.
Thank you. Perhaps Linda could lead us if she wouldn't mind.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. I see there's one communication on the agenda. Linda, were there any other communications not noted here?
Not that I can recall now.
Okay. I'd like to move that we approve the minutes of the virtual regular public and executive session board meetings of June 8th. Is there a second?
Second.
Linda, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Cimarusti?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola?
Yes.
Mr. Rislevich?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Mr. Woodward is muted. I bet he's a yes.
Yes.
There you
Yeah, I saw his mouth move and he wasn't
okay.
muted. I don't know why it didn't come through, but I got it. Thank you.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thanks. Scott, I know we're not going to have a student representative report. Are our students present? Do we have students that are have yet been chosen?
They should be here. I see Mariana's here, and
Oh, Stella. There's Stella.
Polly is about to come. So we could welcome them if you'd like. I could say a few words of welcome.
Sure. I don't think that Andy and Stella probably want to say anything. I see that they are also here.
We're going to recognize them. Thank you.
We're going to recognize them, right? I suppose if they could pipe up if they wanted to say anything. Looks like they're good. Okay, yeah, would you introduce the student reps to us, please?
So Mariana, do you want to say hello to everybody and introduce yourself? And wave so we know where you are, because there's 47 of us here. So it's a little difficult to see you.
Hello.
Hello, Mariana.
Hi. Well, my name is Mariana, and I'm 17 years old. I started studying at Highland Park High School my sophomore year. Before that, I was in Colombia. That's where I'm from. And about me, like, I play volleyball. I've been playing it since I was 5. I
Wow.
played school. I also play club volleyball. And so that's like one of my goals to like play in college too. Like that's one of like something I want to do after high school. I think that I would like to major in like biology or neuroscience, as in like after high school, like goals or like. Yeah. I don't know what else to say.
That's great.
It's to be here. It's very fun. There's so many people. I don't know what else. I think it's been really fun to be part of Highland Park ever since I got here. It's the first like high school I went to ever since I've been to the US, and it's been a very fun experience. And yeah.
Wonderful. We're so glad to have you. Thank you for agreeing to serve.
Thank you.
Scott, we have another rep.
Yeah, Polly, wave. There you are,
Where's
Polly.
Polly?
I see you. Go ahead.
Oh, I see you. Hi, Polly.
Hi.
Oh, I know.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Polly. Like Mariana, I'm also 17. And I've actually been in Highland Park all of my life. But I have to agree, it's a great place. I really like living here. So I guess in terms of my interests, I'm pretty involved with the Mali UN team. So that's something that in the future, in college, I'd maybe like to pursue, either political science or sociology. I was thinking about, yeah, so that's a little about me, I guess.
Wonderful. Well, we're delighted to have you, and thank you for agreeing to serve. We'll look forward to it.
All right. I'm sorry, and I was just going to tell Polly and Mariana, stick around till about 11, 11:30. We usually, no, I'm kidding. Probably maybe 9, so that you get a sense of how board meetings in this new world are operating, okay? And then if you have any questions, you can reach out to me.
And Scott, maybe you could send me their email addresses so we can say hi and
Absolutely, I'll do
be in
that.
touch. Okay.
Yeah. And Michelle has a question, if you don't mind going to her.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I didn't hear who you said, but whoever was asking a question.
I raised
Michelle,
my
Oh,
I raised my digital hand.
that's too much for me. All right, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't
Oh, I
want to
just-
be rude.
I
I
just
was
don't
trying
notice.
to be polite.
Well.
I just wanted to welcome the student reps, and you know, I recognize Polly. She's a classmate of my son Luca. So it's great to have you both. And I wanted to just quickly ask you how you came to be a board rep. How did that process go?
Polly, Mariana, you could just throw out some ideas out there.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Well, I have been watching the board meetings for a while. You know, it's just nice to know what's going on. And I also knew a lot of the previous board reps who really enjoyed being on the board and being a student representative. So that's kind of how I knew about it. And then, you know, I got more interested again with, you know, once I got to high school, with Model UN and such. So I think that that's where it started.
That's fantastic. Mariana, did you want to share anything? You don't have to, but.
Well, for me in Colombia, I already had a little bit of involvement with like being representative in classes and things like that. But here, my sophomore year, since it was my first year here, I was starting to get involved with like clubs and activities after school. And I was still like getting to know all of these like clubs and activities. And then after my sophomore year, becoming familiar with everything that like the school had to offer. This year, well, last year I did, no, sorry, this year I did club, and then, and so I felt like I wanted to be involved in other things and be more involved for the school and for like the students in sports and like clubs like that. So I decided to like apply and like send my information. Yeah.
Well, that's just wonderful. We really depend on you guys to help us figure out what's going on with the students. While we welcome all students to email us if they want to, we're really going to look forward to hearing your voices and playing an active role in board meetings, hopefully, to the extent that you want to. All right, Scott, moving on. I think we have some awards tonight.
Well, yeah. Why don't we start there, and then we can circle back to our board reps from yesteryear. Andy.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So it looks like all of our principals are here. We had one retiree, Werner Coleman, who couldn't make it tonight. We're helping his wife with something. So when we get to Mr. Lassiter, Ms. Brady, they can say a few words if they'd like, since we are recording this session. I'll send a certificate back to him. But Ms. McNally, I'm going to put you on the spot, but I'm giving you a 10-second delay so you could start getting your head in gear. Why don't you say a few words about the illustrious teacher and support professional of the year that we're presenting to the board? Just unmute yourself, okay?
Let's see. There we go. All set. I don't want any dog barking in the background. So good evening, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. So our education support person was Miss Jamie Kurtz for this year. I'll try to keep it brief, but I just think it's important that I share why she was chosen. And we had so many nominations this year, so it really made it that much more difficult and that much more special as well. She's dedicated to working with all students. She doesn't just support their academic needs, but she is constantly mindful of their social emotional needs and challenges as well. In the classroom in which she works, there are many students who have difficult situations in their life outside of the classroom setting, and she is truly mindful of their daily needs. She goes above and beyond when working with all students in the classroom. During our remote learning situation, she was the right hand for Mrs. Couch. She was fantastic, and even with having her little ones at home, she was always available. She really challenges students to work to their potential. She sets boundaries and expectations. But more than anything, she's firm, she's consistent, she exudes kindness and compassion and the willingness to adjust her expectations when a child may need more attention. And she's just flexible, and that flexibility goes way beyond the classroom setting. She will cover other classes or assignments. And again, during remote learning, she was always available, she was always participatory, and she truly cared about how the students were performing. And the faculty and staff have the utmost professional respect for the job Ms. Kurtz does working in any of the classrooms, and she truly demonstrates what it means to be a rock star paraprofessional in a primary school setting. So congratulations, Ms. Kurtz. We love having you at Irving.
Hi, Jamie. I see you. Can you wave? So
Yay!
there she is. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Ooh, I wish we could be there in person
I know, this is
to take awkward photographs, you know, that kind of thing.
exactly.
Very important. Embarrass you in front of your family.
I think Jamie, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I love Irving. I love
Oh.
the family. So thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Good to see you here. Go ahead, Ms. McNally.
All right, so then up next for our Governor of the Year teacher, we have Mrs. Mary Alsager. I saw her on her in her red shirt, so hello. So for Mrs. Alsager, she really just brings joy and a never-ending spirit to the profession of teaching. I'm constantly impressed with her calm, common sense demeanor with her students. She is always respectful and honest with her students, and she has a vision for the path each student needs to travel, and she helps them get there. She has years of experience. She has seen it all, yet she is so open to new ideas and trying new approaches. She works very collaboratively with me and her fellow colleagues to help the students make progress toward their grade level goals. When we were in school, she was always found in the gym meeting with parents and really strengthening that home and school connection, which is so vital at the primary age. She is the epitome of an instructional leader and a master teacher. She readily attends professional development and works with some of our neediest students who thrive in her care. She adapts instruction to meet the students where they are, and she challenges them to be the best that they can be. Her evaluation scores reflect her understanding of pedagogy and meeting the needs of all learners. She is transparent and seeks out assistance whenever needed. And truly, as a professional colleague, she's just the best. She gives freely of her time by serving on important district committees. She is truly the glue of the first grade team. She smooths ruffled feathers and keeps everyone organized. The first grade team has amazing camaraderie, and Mary is at the heart of it. She freely shares ideas and helps everyone keep a healthy perspective. She is instrumental in organizing first grade events, and each year she's the idea person for our first grade fundraiser, and she always makes it happen. One thing that I truly love about Mary is that really she can just inject a laugh on a tough day, and she makes everything easier. Just seeing her face sometimes, we just crack up laughing. She is never afraid to speak up for the betterment of the students and staff, and wholeheartedly, we all admire that about her. Outside of the school setting, I am continually impressed by her commitment to the causes that are important to her. She is walking nearly every weekend for a cause, selling chocolates to benefit an organization, or teaching Cub Scouts. Although these activities might not directly benefit Highland Park students, they contribute to our Irving commitment to be kind and to be the reason someone smiles today. Mary makes me and all of the rest of the staff smile each and every day. And I just thank you for your ongoing commitment to Irving and for just being an amazing person. So thank you so much, and congratulations, Mary.
There she is. There's Mary.
Congratulations.
Wow. So, you know, usually I'm not at a loss for words, but I am at this moment. I appreciate everything that you've said, and my heart has been in Highland Park for 21 years and still more coming. So I'm excited about that, and I appreciate everything that you had to say, and I appreciate everyone. And I'm glad you mentioned my team, because without them and without you, Megan, I don't know how we would accomplish what we accomplished. So thank you so much, and love, and I miss you all.
Love and miss you too. Congratulations.
Thank
Yay,
you.
congratulations.
I tried to keep it as short as I could, but there was so much to say.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Ms.
Thank
Alsager.
you.
Thank you. And thank you for all you do.
Recognize, make sure you look at the chat panel. There's some chatting going on about you guys. So thank you, Ms. McNally. I'm going to now turn to Ms. Knapp in her
Very
spring summer duty as principal. Go for it.
So I am very excited to be here tonight to honor my two recipients. And I will start with our educational services professional, Dimitra Kambitsis. Saying that Dimitra goes above and beyond for her students is an understatement. She selflessly gives of herself for the benefit of her students, and she is always willing and able to attend to any need that arises in the classroom. It is evident that she truly loves what she does in everything she does every day. As a paraprofessional, she builds a strong, trusting relationship with the students she works with. Even when things get tough, which they definitely can in the classroom she works in, she keeps a positive attitude and looks for ways to make it better. She never just walks away from a situation. She will reflect and think until she comes up with, a solution to the problem. Not only does she work well with the students, but Dimitra is also extremely collaborative with her colleagues and has established a wonderful rapport with every person in the Bartle community. Her wheels are always turning. She's always thinking of new ideas that will make the classroom community stronger and more conducive to learning. She is an absolute asset to Bartle School, and I am thrilled that she is part of our Bartle family. So congratulations, Dimitra. I love working with you, and I'm so happy you're with us at Bartle. I can't see you. Where are you?
I don't see Dimitra, but I do see, I want to call out one of my great hires of the past half year, Gamel Pascal. Gamel, just wave. Gamel's there. He's here, I assume, in support of Dimitra because you work with her, correct, Gamel?
Yeah.
Tell him I'm here, listening with you on the cell phone.
I'm actually on the phone with her right now.
Okay, I'm glad you're there. I didn't see you.
Jen, I'm sorry. It's my Zoom just won't work. I tried everything, but thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely.
Congratulations to you.
Congratulations.
And I'm very grateful for those kind words and for the opportunity that I have. So thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Take care. Nice to meet you, Mr. Pascal.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jay.
Gamel,
Yeah,
Gamel's our ranks teacher.
no problem.
All right, Gamel. See you, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Go ahead.
So next, I am here to talk about Tanya Gerlack. Tanya has been dedicated to the students of Highland Park for 28 years, and I have had the pleasure of knowing and working with her for many of those years, so I am privileged to have that. She began as a preschool disabled teacher at Irving, and over the years has also been a resource room teacher and most recently an inclusion teacher. Tanya has been an excellent educator in every role, but I truly have to say she thrives in the inclusion setting. Together, her and her partner teacher have established a seamless model of co-teaching that benefits all of the students in the class. When you walk into the classroom, you would never be able to identify who's the regular education teacher and who's the special education teacher. To Tanya and her co-teacher, all the students. To Tanya, are her students. And she will do anything to support them and advocate for them, for them to grow as learners. Not only is Tanya a phenomenal educator for her students, she is also a teacher leader in Bartle. She is always willing to mentor new teachers. I just contacted her again the other day. She's always willing to mentor them, and she openly shares her knowledge and provides support to the newest members of our community. She has provided professional development workshops for her colleagues to support their growth as well. Her door is always open to anyone that needs her support. Tanya is a lifelong learner and is always seeking out ways to improve her instruction for the benefit of the students. The students are always what's first in her mind. She is willing to take risks and incorporate new ideas into her teaching. And if things don't go the way she thought they would, she maintains her growth mindset, reflects, modifies, and continues to improve her craft. She is an inspiration, and I am blessed to have her as part of the Bartle family. Congratulations on being Teacher of the Year, Tanya. Love you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen. That was really sweet. I didn't know I was going to have to say anything. I would have prepared a speech or something, but thank you. That was really sweet. Thanks, Jen. So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you for all that you do. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Knapp. You did well in your first go-around as principal, recognizing every year. With that, I'm going to pass the baton to another new principal, Ms. Brady.
Hi, everybody. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. I miss all of you so much. I see high school faces that I haven't seen, board members, my own staff. This is so hard, but it's very nice and refreshing to see all of you tonight. So does it matter who I start with, Dr. Taylor?
Go ahead. You can go.
All right. I'm going to go for my, let me see whose face I can see. I see Mark and Yen Yen. All right. Yen Yen, I'm going to start with you. So Yen Yen is the recipient of the Teacher of the Year Award. She and I actually came into Highland Park. She came into Highland Park a year after I did, so our journeys have happened to overlap quite a bit. She started as an intervention teacher, moved to the math classroom, and is now our 6th grade ELA teacher, where I really believe she's found her niche. I thought she was absolutely wonderful in each of those roles, but I really think she has just been phenomenal in this particular role. Yen Yen, you are beloved as a teacher and as a coworker. You're always willing to take initiative. Mike, you might remember this, but Yen Yen actually helped me as an assistant principal to deal with the attendance issues. She created this multi-tiered intervention program, and she really worked very diligently to address those concerns. Most recently, she's volunteered to lead our INRS team, and I just call her the president of INRS because she's got it all under control. During remote learning, she and Mr. Farmer worked together to create cross-curricular lessons, which were phenomenal. And I'm very hopeful that she and Mr. Farmer hopefully will be able to teach other teachers to try this model, whether we're back or teaching remotely again. She's detail-oriented and efficient, which of course I appreciate, but she's also incredibly kind, someone the students can confide in, and an excellent teacher of English, which is why she received an overwhelming amount of nominations and was determined the winner of this recognition. So I can't thank Yen Yen enough. I love her dearly as a friend and a coworker, and I couldn't ask for a better recipient of this award. So congratulations to you, Yen Yen.
Thank you, Caitlin.
You're welcome.
Congratulations, Dr. Chu.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Okay, I'm going to go on for my educational services recipient, which is Mark LoBianco. Where are you, Mark?
I don't know. I'm up here.
Okay, I see you. So Mark and I have worked very closely over the last 6 years. I think you would agree, Mark, that we complement each other very well. We've often I would say, almost always play good cop, bad cop. And the dynamic has actually been very successful over the years in reaching some of our most challenging students. I'm not going to say who was who, but I'm just going to say that it worked very well. I could not ask for a better partner, especially when it comes to scheduling. We know that. And I have worked very hard to create an administrative team in our middle school that includes Mark, who I refer to as the Charlie's Angels. I know, Mark, you want to be Charlie, but I think Charlie's the boss. I think that's the idea. But all right, we'll go with whatever. So we have all of these goals to lay this good educational, social, and emotional framework, and it really could not be done without you, Mark, who I consider a friend, not only a coworker, but a very good friend too. The students, the staff love Mark. You're kind, you're funny, you're creative, and you're supportive. And really, I'm honored that this is my first year and I get to award this to you. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And I want to add that for both of these candidates, we had like a little award amongst our teachers. So the teachers nominated each other for really exceptional work during remote learning, and both Yen Yen and Mark were nominated. So this is just like to add on to that, because I really think they've just done a phenomenal job. The nominations that both of these guys received, we went through every single one of them, and I was near tears, and I'm not a crier, you guys. So I just hope that you know how much your students adore you and the staff adore you. This is very well deserved, and congratulations to you both. I love you guys.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Brady, and
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And with that, I take it to both Mr. Lassiter and at some point Ms. Budine, who's here, and Ms. Teacher, if you'd like to say anything. I'll start with you, Mr. Lassiter.
So thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. I wish we were all in person, so and we could give hugs to all the recipients. I could say a bunch about Mr. Lobianco as well, all great things. And I'm going to turn my attention now to the high school and Mr. Coleman. Even though he can't be here tonight, I did want to say a few words about Mr. Coleman because he put 20 years into the district, came in September of 2000. And although he is an accomplished musician, photographer, barbecuer, he and I shared some tips about that, father and husband, he has never been one to toot his own horn like a band leader should. So I reached out to his former students through the alumni Facebook page and got dozens of responses. But I think in the sake of brevity, I'll share one. The kind of story that anyone that puts so much into what they do as a teacher just loves to hear. Although I am sad to hear about Mr. Coleman retiring, I am happy for him. He has joked about retiring and seemed to have the dates all set since I was a middle school monster. Mr. Coleman was that teacher for me. Although I hardly practiced my flute and was more serious about chorus, Mr. Coleman was the reason I stayed in the band. He made such an impact on me and my classmates. Most of us could probably still hum the tune we would warm up to, even some of our concert rep. I even remember a group of us in high school breaking into song, singing all of our respective parts. And I'm sure most of us could still remember some classic Colemanisms like "Turn the Dial Up." As a music teacher myself now, I think about all he did for us, taking us to Williamsburg, allowing us to participate in festivals, starting a pep band, wind ensemble, and percussion ensemble, inviting us to a barbecue at his house, and joining us after concerts at the corner confectionery. I think about doing all this with my students. OMG, that must have taken so much organization and time. And Mr. Coleman made it look easy. I want to tell him that I appreciated it then, but appreciate it so much more now looking back on it as a teacher and as an adult. I feel so lucky to have had him as a teacher for 6 years, and I wish him the absolute best retirement. He truly believes no one had a better band director, or I truly believe no one had a better band director than I did. And that was from Lydia Delora, the class of 2007. And like I said, I could read dozens and dozens of stories here from the students that wrote in about their love for a man who we just had a wonderful time with all his closeout concerts right before he left at the end of January. And all I can say to him when he sees this is he must have known something we all didn't, because he retired just in time and is enjoying his time now with his lovely family.
Yeah.
So give it up for Mr. Coleman.
Thank you.
I also want to share about our Governor's Teacher of the Year, Miss Taryn Whiter. And there's something in common about Miss Whiter and our Educational Service Professional of the Year. They both came in 2015. And it wasn't planned out, but they both got selected this year. So Ms. Whiter joined our staff in 2015, has proven herself to be a terrific member of our high school faculty. I recommended her for hire and have supervised her as principal since she joined our family as one of our golden owls. She has an extraordinary presence in our building, and her smile and positive attitude is contagious. She has taught geometry to all of our students who didn't have it prior to coming over from middle school, so she's taught most of the school. The students adore her and appreciate her positivity and her attention to detail. Her classroom is a warm and inviting place, and she has worked hard to learn and grow as a teacher so that she can keep those students engaged in learning math. Geometry is always seen as a math subject that is very different from traditional computation and algebra, and so Ms. Whiter has risen to the challenge by employing all kinds of group and team strategies to help her students learn. She constantly hones her craft by attending professional development and experiments with new teaching techniques in order to provide the students the best learning experiences possible. Ms. Whiter has also served as our cheerleading coach since coming to Highland Park, and the students in her program have demonstrated skills that are literally leaps and bounds over what the cheerleaders did before she came. It has been great for me to cheer right alongside them at times, because I love to cheer. And Ms. Whiter has really helped our owls put the S in the spirit that we need as a high school. This was especially clear this year with how she advised the class of 2020. She has served as her class advisor since they joined HPHS as freshmen and helped to raise them up to be outstanding senior leaders. Two of them are sitting there on the board as representatives going off to college, Andy and Stella. Darren and I cried together over the seniors' misfortune with the cancellation of each one of their traditional senior events, but she rallied her troops and kept them motivated right up to and including their graduation. She spearheaded the lawn sign efforts and made sure that every senior had a lawn sign to motivate and celebrate their senior year. Two of our out-of-district students celebrated on our lawn recently with those lawn signs as part of what we did to celebrate them. She personally delivered them to her officers and constantly kept in touch with all our senior class through every media platform she could, so they were updated on each development about how their year would unfold. She announced each one of them at their diploma pickup commencement profession before their graduation wave parade and helped to create the videos for their senior awards and graduation ceremony. Not something she originally signed up for. Taryn gave everything she could to these seniors, including countless hours of lost sleep, worrying about how to make this year as successful as it was. I personally am eternally grateful for her dedication to not only the class of 2020, but also each and every student who passes through and past room 136 doorway. These students are sure to be greeted with her ever-present smile and cheerful disposition, and they will be forever touched by her kindness and generous spirit. So give it up for Taryn.
Congratulations, what a lovely tribute.
Thank you.
She's a lovely person, well deserved.
I don't know what to say. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Mark.
Wonderful. Okay.
And I will share some words about our next recipient of the Educational Services Professional, Ms. Stephanie Barr. I don't know if Ms. Bedine or Ms. Dietrich would like to speak first.
No, go ahead. You can go first and I'll jump in when you're done.
Okay, great. So Stephanie joined our staff in the fall of 2015, like I said, as a social worker extraordinaire for our child study team in the high school and middle school. She quickly proved herself as an incredible advocate for our classified students. I have sat with her during our high school CST meetings and listened as she identifies student concerns, explains all she has done for the students by collaborating with teachers and working with their parents through the various issues, and then identifies other possible options we can take as a school to meet those students' needs. This is an exhaustive process, but Stephanie takes it on with dedication that is unmatched in my experience. She and I have met individually to brainstorm some of the most difficult student situations, and I often marvel at her creativity and ability to think outside the box for our kids. She will not give up on her students no matter how many mistakes they make or how challenging their disability is for them. She loves each one of them and will advocate for them no matter what. I can think of quite a few students she has helped to get back on track for success, from students who refused to come to school and now are leading presentations on restorative practices, to students who needed constant check-ins to support them to graduate, even at the age of 21, just in time to get their diploma before they could no longer receive services. I just awarded that young lady her diploma last week in a special ceremony on the front lawn. Stephanie was a reason this young lady graduated because she never gave up on her. Stephanie is able to muster the services needed and the commitment from all our teachers to assist each of our classified students no matter what. She has arranged special parties for students when they had to have surgeries and always looks for ways to brighten their lives. I am always willing to listen to her ideas, even when they may be outlandish, because in the end, I know she has the students' best interests and well-being at heart. Her colleagues and her students' parents appreciate what she does for each student on her caseload, but the most heartfelt appreciation comes from those students. Stephanie was not able to attend that special ceremony for that young lady, but I want her to know that my eyes and the students' eyes filled up with tears as she described how she would not have made it if it had not been for Mrs. Barr never giving up on her. I look forward to that same feeling every time I see Stephanie on a mission to help each child on her caseload succeed.
So
congrats, Ms. Barr.
So I'll jump in just to add a little bit about Stephanie. I cannot agree more that one of the most amazing things about working with and getting to know Stephanie is this deep-rooted love, dedication, and caring that she has for her students, that it truly is, as Mike said, unmatched. She is an amazing, amazing part of our child study team. And in addition to that, she brings a level of support to the team as a whole and to the teachers that are working with these students that really is really wonderful and something that you don't often see. So when I heard that Stephanie was nominated and was going to, win this recognition, I can't think of another person that was more deserving. So from the bottom of my heart and from our team, thank you, Stephanie, for everything that you've done, and this is well deserved.
Good job, Stephanie.
Thank you for all you do, Ms. Barr.
I just want to say one thing. I've never met a group of people that are just so responsive. I don't have to wait 3 days for an email or for a meeting. It's what makes it enjoyable is also the support and just like how open everybody is to listening to things I have to say and just being so responsive. So just thank you so much. You guys are all awesome. It's an honor.
Congratulations. Thank you for all that you do for our students.
Wonderful. So at this time, man, I'm going to recommend that we recognize Andy and Stella, and then
yes, please.
30-second break. How about if you don't mind, I'd like to actually say a word about Andy, and then I can transfer to you. And
please, no, go ahead. Thank you for coming, Andy and Stella.
Yeah.
Looking for
Certificate first. So Andy and Stella, I've known for years, partly because I'm a resident in the district, a parent, obviously, of at least one daughter who went through the school system around them. Andy and Stella both had wonderful reputations throughout high school. I mean, they were upstanding students who modeled what I would want every Highland Park student to come out of our school doing, and that is to know how important it is to contribute to your community, your local community, be good-hearted about it, but also be smart about it and effective. And I don't mean to sound cliche, but I guess I will. I've seen them grow up, and I'm extremely proud of them to see them grow on. And with that, Anne, if you'd like to say a few words, go ahead.
I just want to say how wonderful it was to have these two guys on the board. They were articulate. They spoke up when they needed to. They kept us informed about what was going on with students. And it was just a real pleasure to have you guys. It's a big commitment showing up every 2 weeks, sometimes till, after 9:30 at night when you have a lot of other work going on. And we just really appreciate it. And we're so delighted to hear about your future plans. And we hope, I don't know if Temple's going to be in person, out of person, remote. We hope whatever happens, it's a good freshman year. So take care.
Yeah.
And thank you for being with us.
So much. And thank
you. Love you.
Thank you.
Every meeting.
Stella, why don't you just, if you don't mind, Anne, I'd like to have Andy and Stella just tell us what they're up to next year. Andy, you want to start?
Yes, please.
Sure. So I'll be enrolled at Temple University and the University of Pennsylvania on the Naval ROTC scholarship, and then in 4 years I'll become second lieutenant in the Marine Corps.
Wow! Congratulations, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
Stella, what are you up to next year?
So I'm going to Temple University, and I'm majoring in communications and social influences. And hopefully after 4 years, I'll be able to work with like a nonprofit organization. So that's the dream.
Oh, wonderful. Do you guys know whether you'll be in person yet in the fall? Or are they still figuring that out, yeah?
They're still figuring it out.
Most likely in person, but things can always change.
Of course. Oh, well, fingers crossed. Many congratulations to you both, and thank you so much for being with us this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
With that, Anne, I'm going to semi-direct the people who work with me here to head out, unless they'd like to stay. You're more than welcome, but this is their entree to.
We have no cupcakes. It's so sad, Scott. No cookies, no social events, which we'd like to do. Sorry, guys.
Sorry. Virtual hugs is the best we can do. So, if you don't mind, we'll take a 10-second break. I'm going to switch gears and go to my presentation while my folks head out. I'll see some of them tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for a leadership team meeting. Thank you all for being here. Andy, Stella.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye, Andy, Stella. Anyone is welcome to stay, of course, if they'd like.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Well, everybody's switching gears. I am too. And would like to conclude my report by, bear with me here, sharing my latest on reentry planning. I'm just getting myself situated. There we go. So I would like to get everybody up to speed about the process to plan for reentry without providing too many details, because number one, we don't have all the details ironed out yet. We will in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And number two, as Anna and I were agreeing about earlier today, we could be here for hours and hours and hours if we discuss details about reentry planning. I have received hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails and comments and articles, and there's just so much to parse. So what I'm going to do tonight is is give everybody a broad look at how we're going about this planning process, starting with an overview of the timeline that's going to lead to a formal presentation to the board and the community on April 3rd. So the Department of Education is requiring school districts to present some kind of a reentry plan. It could be hybrid, which means it could be part in-person, part remote, by 30 days prior to the first day of school, which for us is September 8th for students. So my timeline has me first having the board take a look as a group at the plan that will have been developed by a number of stakeholder groups and the leadership team here in the district. And of course, broadcast the plan, however, through social media and Honeywell and whatnot. And then a few days later, I'll submit the plan to the Department of Ed, recognizing that because this crisis is changing daily, in some cases hourly, daily at the least, we might have a reentry plan V2, version 2, to present to the community by the end of August, or even sooner. So I look at my August 6th submission to the Department of Education as a first version submission. We do have another meeting on August 24th, barring any need for an emergency board meeting. And at that time, if there is another iteration of the reentry plan, it'll be presented formally then to the board and the community. So because there are so many moving parts to the plan, it's such a complex task. It has been helpful for us to look at things in a compartmentalized way. What we're finding as a stakeholder group and as a leadership team, as board, those board members who've been working with me on this in a small group, that it's the schedule that really is the linchpin of a lot of other things that we have to decide. We already have health protection protocols for consideration. We have a focus on equity that we're considering, instruction, remote options, but ultimately it all depends on what it's going to look like for students and personnel in the fall. Once we have the schedule down pat, we can build around that the health protection protocols that we've already initially put out there at a more final level, and then everything else we need to do can come around that. So regarding the schedule, it is my mission to present to the core task force, that's a group of 26 stakeholders meeting on Wednesday. We met once already this past Wednesday. The scenarios that we will have deduced is what all the input we're getting amounts to. And right now, it looks like we're looking at about 3 in-person or hybrid type scenarios, and then 1 remote only scenario for those individuals, parents who would not want to send their children back to school at all. The chart on the right is just a screenshot of a many-page document that takes all of the, actually I have a number coming up on another slide, all of the input I received, and I received 185 specific comments, by the way, from parents and guardians through our survey, through email, 83 specific comments from personnel, a lot of comments from the court task force that is using a Google Doc to collaborate on thoughts. But I took all of that information with the help of an assistant and put it into a chart so we can see it. We can see it visually in an organized way. And when you take everybody's input about scheduling, it comes down to these 3 in-person or in-person hybrid scenarios, and then that 1 remote only scenario for the parents and guardians who will not want to bring their children back. The way that the decision-making we'll have the leadership team, which has already done this last week, developing an initial framework, initial plan that looks at health protection and equity matters, how to ensure that our traditionally marginalized students are not left behind between now and into next year. We will present, and we've already done this last week, we'll continue to do this, present our work to the core task force. Now, Wednesday, the core task force is going to hone in on the schedule options. That group will then get additional input from a second stakeholder group, a smaller group I refer to as the input task force. The input task force will be meeting at the end of July. So we'll have a couple of weeks, week and a half to 2 weeks, to make additions or subtractions or edits as needed based on input, if it's viable input. And then finally, as I pointed out earlier, I'll present the plan to the Board of Education and the community. As I pointed out earlier, I've gotten a tremendous amount of feedback. I stand corrected, not 83, it was 89 detailed comments from a personnel survey, 185 from parents and guardians. Now, there will be another survey I'm distributing, and the community will be getting word from me about this via Honeywell, Facebook, email, later this week, that will specifically present, among other questions, the schedule scenarios that the core task force and the leadership team have identified to be viable, that these are doable options. And so by the end of the week, the survey will be out, and it'll be an opportunity for the community to chime in on how they feel, how parents and guardians feel about, and personnel for that matter, about the various schedule options we're looking at. I mean, we're looking at options like, just to plant a couple of seeds, having all of our elementary students come back in a whole group for 4 or 5 days a week, while our middle and high school students come back in cohorts of students, so we can keep our class sizes down on a rotational basis. We have another survey, another scenario that would have all of our K-12 students rotating either on a weekly basis or on a daily basis. So these are the things that will be presented if they are viable after they've been vetted by the core task force on Wednesday. We'll present to the general community. I can tell you, because I know that of utmost concern is health and safety. I can tell you that things that we're considering, these are not being committed to, but I just want to let the community, the board know these are things we are considering doing, is temperature monitoring, batch COVID-19 testing. I'm doing some research in that area, looking at local and regional health agencies that might offer those services, requiring masks for students and personnel. The New Jersey Department of Education reentry plan gave students some leeway to not use masks if they were maintaining social distance of 6 feet plus. We're looking more at considering strongly at the idea that students wear masks at all times. We would, of course, have to consider breaks and how we would accommodate young children's needs to be wearing a mask for so long a period of time, and contact tracing. This graph I'm showing you, this chart I'm showing you on the screen, is a picture of a contact tracing form that, as of today, the district is using with its 12-month employees. Every employee is required to, and every visitor for that matter, by the way, every vendor or visitor who's going to spend a prolonged period of time in the building is required to fill out this form before coming to work, or before coming to the building. The simple form, one set of questions that were based on the Hackensack Meridian Health Network questionnaire, and we also borrowed, of course, from the CDC. There's a question or a box in this survey that you can't see in the screenshots below that requires people to indicate if they visited any states that are on the restricted travel list, New Jersey restricted travel list. This is required to be completed every morning as of today, because today was the first day we brought back our 12-month employees to their offices. And I get, or my office gets, automatically an email anytime a disconcerting box is checked. So if somebody checks off a box that I have a fever, or I have persistent cough not associated with a previously known illness or allergies, I get my office gets an email, and then we tell the person to stay home, don't come to work, and then we follow up accordingly. Consult our school district physician if necessary. I have to round out my presentation by just putting out there the potential that we may not come back in the fall. And I know that's very discouraging for a lot of people, but there is that possibility. Many of you probably know that Los Angeles and San Diego school systems today announced that they're going to go remote in September, much to the chagrin of our federal government, some officials at our federal level. So our district needs to keep a very careful watch on how we are going to vastly improve the way we delivered remote teaching and helped kids learn remotely, if in fact we do go back all remote. Of course, we've also got a plan for those students who will not come back, even if we do come back in person, because their families chose to keep them home. We have already introduced a well-recognized online series of workshops produced by Stanford University. Our teachers, our support staff can take these series of workshops for free. I've already gotten emails from some staff who said they've signed up and started the online profile development process. They'll get professional development hours for their time, so there's an extrinsic motivating factor here for them to do that work. Come September 2nd and 3rd, every week I've been checking in with our professional development coordinator, Brooke Baldazone, to review the agenda. And we are looking at intensive professional development around remote learning those 2 days. Now, prior to those 2 days, the leadership team and I will be heeding the input we receive from both personnel and our parents and guardians that not only do we have to ramp up our efforts regarding remote learning, but we have to be mindful that we have to be more consistent with the guidelines that we're giving our teachers that frame how much time they're spending with kids live, what requirements they're delivering to their students for submitting work. So a lot of that work is going to be done by the leadership team in August, and then we're going to, before September, be sending out a message to the personnel, the staff, that this is going to be the way we approach remote learning, regardless of the governor's call or not that we are not coming back. Because again, we are going to have, I feel, a good number of students who will not return, even if we come back for in-person learning. I pointed out clear guidelines. Some of the other information that I pulled in from the parent, guardian, and personnel forums and surveys that I conducted are the need for our kids to have regular interaction with their teachers, for the district to, in a more effective manner, organize the web-based applications that we're using, that we're requiring our kids to use, instead of being all over the map with all the different things that we're using. And also to be looking at the reality that remote learning is not as effective as in-person learning, so that we could use this as an opportunity to focus on the mantra, teach with more depth in mind and less breadth. Take concepts and topics that curriculum mandates that we implement, and have our students flesh them out on a deeper learning level. That can be done through project-based learning, it can be done through independent learning. There are many ways we can go about that. And that's a lot of what the professional development in September is going to focus on. So that's what I have to share with you for now. I'll give the board another, obviously more detailed presentation August 3rd. The community will get a Honeywell from me leading up to that August 3rd meeting, just to remind everybody that that's the day when I'm going to be sharing all the details of the reentry plan. So, Anne, I think it would be helpful if I took questions or heard comments from the board at this time.
Sure, that sounds good. Let's go. I'm sure board members have a lot of questions. I will try to keep it workable. Let's see, is anybody's, Chris Woodward's hand is raised. I see Michelle. Let's do Chris first.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know the lighting is not great here.
To say the least.
Are you trapped? Are you all right?
Are you okay?
I don't know where the light switch is in this. I know there's some community concern that will be forced back in person because parents need to get back to work. Can you maybe comment on that? I mean, is the need for parents to get back to work in the fall part of the consideration, or is it more that children have a right to education, and if we can do it safely?
Certainly a combination of the two, Chris. One article I read recently that I shared with the core the core task force group and the leadership team, written by a teacher, I believe, an educator, proposes that if in fact, as a district, we decide and we have the allowance to decide that, you know what, it's just too dangerous to send our kids back, we're going to buck the state on this. Or if the state tells us we have to shut down, that in this article, we operate some kind of a program for our elementary students, K-5. Don't know what that would look like, but that we would at least provide some avenue for the little ones to have some interaction, at the same time give their parents an opportunity to return to work, knowing that it's harder to get hold of childcare nowadays for younger students. Now, of course, that would all hinge on how carefully we can protect the health and safety of those kids and the adults who might be working with them. But Chris, that's out there. That's been out there. It's floating around my superintendent circles, and I felt it was a good enough article worthy of sharing with the core group. But the bottom line answer to your first question is certainly both reasons. We should try to open up and bring kids back in person, because we're losing time with them, and there's certainly social, emotional, academic decline for every day that they're not interacting with people, especially at the lower grade level. But at the same time, we're keeping a close eye on what's happening around the country, particularly in California, Florida, and Texas.
Are there other questions from the board at this point? Oh, Michelle, you had a question, I think.
Michelle raised her physical hand.
Yeah, I'm trying something new. I have two questions. So, well, maybe even three. It's a lot of uncertainty. So I appreciate that there's any kind of plan put together, because just having some plan puts our minds at ease as a community, knowing that, you know, we're all trying to organize. But, you know, that said, like you said, Scott, this is kind of a moving target. And we frankly don't know what's going to happen hour to hour. So, like that said, my first question is, have you had conversations or any kind of feedback from the borough, specifically the Board of Health, about their recommendations or the mayor and council's ability to contact trace residents at the moment? Because I know if we should open, some of those students and teachers coming back, they might have antibodies. I don't know what that means. No one seems to know. Antibodies might not protect anyone, but you know, contact tracing would be useful since they would have been infected already. So that's my first question.
So how about we take it question by question? So if the answer to that
sounds good.
Yes, I directed Dr. Nikoja, our STEM director, who is also the one who created that Google form I showed you, our own internal contact tracing form, to reach out first to the local level and then go from there to find out now what we do and what can we do. The borough passed us to the county, and we're now waiting word from the county Board of Health to determine what partnership we need to develop with them to more effectively contact trace. What I foresee happening if we come back in person somehow in the fall is using some iteration of that internal form. If we don't get guidance from the borough, from the county, I got to put it out there, and I'm sure this is not new news for some people, especially the educators in the Zoom room. Superintendents are not getting guidance. In fact, just today, the Mercer County president of the Superintendent Association reached out to me, because I'm the president of the Middlesex Association, asking me to partner with another county, Monmouth, so it'd be 3 counties, to write a letter on our 3 counties districts' behalf, imploring the government to give us more guidelines. And we delineate what we need. We need, for instance, something that Ms. Gowan has been espousing on our Google Doc as a core group, and that is we need to know what the standard will be to close down again. Am I going to open up their school district and then a day later close down because nobody gave me any guidance, but I know what's good for our kids? I found out that somebody was in direct contact with an infected individual at home. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking for now, and Dr. Njsia is on it in terms of that particular question regarding contact tracing. But that form I showed you could be used en masse in the fall if we're not giving any guidance and we have to come back. And the idea would be that somebody at the building level would receive that flag email that my office is getting now. My office can do that now because I only have 23 12-month secretaries/leaders. If they're all here at the same time. It's mostly like between 15 to 20 because a lot of us are on vacation in and out. We can handle that. 1,650 students, it's going to be more difficult if we have to start getting email flags. But that's something which we're looking at in the pipeline. Hopefully we'll get the guidance that Dr. Njsia is looking for from the county.
Well, thank you for the answer. I'm disappointed in the response from, townwide leadership, though. I think it would be nice. It would be nice for, everyone to kind of advocate further and further up the chain. This is a global pandemic, so this is a global issue. This is really not a local issue. It's not the same thing as thousands of other things that we talk about local control being an ideal situation.
I'll be very frank. I'm going to take a risk on this one. Some of you on the board know where I'm going with it. And I'm going to put it right out there and say, the governor needs to understand it's okay to be what, in education parlance is directive controlling in matters like this when it comes to safety and health. I mean, that's my perspective. It's okay. There are state guidelines that say you will open only if, but then you must close if. That's okay. And unfortunately, nobody in Trenton is doing that. And it's very frustrating. And so, yes.
And now we have hundreds of districts, hundreds, trying to make this decision on their own, and it's ridiculous.
And so what's happened is, so all these county superintendents associations like mine are rallying together. We're sending letters. And by the way, the Mercer County, in Mercer County is Dave Adderholt's school district. A lot of us now know Dave Adderholt is the superintendent of West Windsor, also the president of Garden State Garden State Coalition of Schools, not Garden State Equality. And he came up with the 400-something questions that's been circulating around the state. So he's in that circle. Hopefully, some of the agitators in our group will finally move on that, in getting somebody to do something at Trenton. But Michelle, you had other questions.
I appreciate that. I just want to say I appreciate that, and I hope that the governor listens to your good advice. So my next question was, were there creative ideas that were coming forward from, frankly, anywhere about ways in which we can do some sort of cooperative schooling? So one of the things I was kicking around for your younger students, and I don't know if Ms. McNally is around to hear this, but lots of kids have been quarantining for a very long time. Lots of parents have been doing that. There are parents who are privileged in the way that they can work from home. A lot of parents can't, but they have service jobs they need to go out of the house to do. So I think that, there's plenty of ways that the homeschooling community has already dealt with that kind of cooperative education. And that might be a place to look for some sort of guidance about how to do that. I don't know if it's fair to ask the nurse to take everyone's temperature every single day. I don't know how that's going to work. So my idea is about, small groups, possibly even in private homes, if that's possible. I just think creativity needs to lead us in different directions at this point, because it really requires us to use all of our resources. And it would be nice to think of this as a community effort, which is, again, why I'm a little disappointed in the town leadership, the borough leadership, in not creating some kind of organized conversation around those ideas?
Well, well, first of all, the answer to the question is yes. The core task force Google Doc has been alive with all kinds of creative ideas. I have to give a shout out to Sarah Kelly, I believe is Sarah, right? She's the representative from the Board of Health who also works at Rutgers, talking about using public spaces, community spaces to help us reduce class sizes. I mean, one of the biggest challenges we have if we go in person is dealing with numbers of kids we can put in classrooms. We sketched out the square footage of all of our classrooms. Tomorrow, I'm having my elementary principals work with our facilities department to do a deeper dive. They're actually going to look at what a classroom would be like without furniture, to see what we could do. We're going to look at using our own gymnasiums. But yes, the idea of using public spaces, or I should say government spaces like the community center, has come up. There was one other thing I wanted to share with you, though. But whatever. I mean, so the answer to the question is yes. We're brainstorming. Yeah.
Scott, are you still in touch with the town on a daily basis about coronavirus stuff?
Oh,
or is that not happening anymore?
That's the other thing I want to tell you. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Weekly, we are meeting as a task force. So I serve on the Borough COVID-19 task force. And we do discuss every week on Monday. We had our meeting this morning at 9 a.m. We get on about 15, 16, 17 of us, depending on how many can show up. And I'm the first person to do the presentation. I give everybody an update on what's going on. And we do spend some time, Michelle and Ann, brainstorming then some ideas. So yeah, I mean, there's that venue for me to do. And I am in touch with, so Gail Mittler and I do have a communicative relationship. So we talk to each other, like, from everything from local crises that I can help her support, helping with, and to this issue. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is something that I, want to suggest, but it just seems like there are certain parents who can share the responsibility of, hosting in their own homes. I don't know if that's something that the town can, organize, but I do know that there are parents who are struggling because they have, jobs that require them to go out. So there is a bit of an equity issue there. And not everyone is dealing on an equal playing field for sure. So that's just something to throw out there. And I would hate to see parents organize their own homeschooling groups and not be testing and not be taking precautions. That's creativity might be going too far in that direction, but whatever. My last question is about another thing we talked about last time, strengths-based learning. And I thought that it would be a good idea if we had some sort of, regular check-in, weekly perhaps, or daily with other students or their parents about what they're learning in all of this at-home time. There's a lot of time to do some kind of project that you never had time to do as a human who's been on the go to school and to work and all of that stuff. So even personally, I'm finding that there's things that I am learning in my own time. So my suggestion or my question was, is that a part of the plan? Should we not be able to come back? Are we doing enough checking in to be checking in on what the students are becoming interested in, how they are learning about themselves? I don't know if journaling is a part of our remote learning, but from a curricular perspective, that was my view of it.
One thing I would like to see, because we didn't do this enough, and I'll chalk it up to, hey, we had to turn this thing around within a few days, and it was, we were just dealing with stuff very quickly. But now that we had the time during the summer to have some rich thinking about this, one of the things we need to do better is have a structured way of checking in with kids. What we did was have our guidance counselors check in. They would send emails. They would, we had certain students who were flagged by teachers who weren't showing up. But I think there could be a more systemic way of doing this in a structured manner too. So like you have a checklist of all of our, all of your kids, a roster, and you would make it a point to check in with every child, maybe even ask them a questionnaire, a screening tool, right? So that, hey, have you learned something that you really appreciate? Is there something we could, in other words, basically like run miniature interviews, one-to-one interviews. And frankly, Michelle, if we don't go back in September, we're not going to open up in October. It's going to be looking like, I'm thinking it would be like a January reopen after there's a vaccine and after the pandemic has hopefully been quelled. So we have the time. If we prepare the structure ahead of time, we would have the time, if we don't come back, to do those regular structured screens. It's a wonderful idea, and it's definitely something that I've been thinking we need to do more of.
Okay, I notice it's 8:45, and I'm worried we have such a large number of members of the public here. So I'm going to ask board members to unfairly, I know, kind of keep it as short as possible while getting to their main points. I have 3 hands up. First was Magaziner.
Hi. Thank you, Scott. Just listening for the last 20 minutes or so, and knowing how much work has gone into the discussions that are happening, we really do appreciate it. I don't think there are necessarily any perfect or necessarily even right answers at this point, because we're learning new things every single day. But I did want to ask if we should be moving in the direction of remote learning in the fall. I wonder if, Scott, if you could assure the parents and the students who are here tonight and across the town that we're going to be fully prepared. I mean, we have this time, we have the summer. I'd like to feel that we're fully prepared to deliver really a quality education in a remote way, because I have a feeling that whether it's even a small hybrid or fully remote, that we're going to be doing a lot of remote teaching.
I agree. I wanted to rather than just talk in response to your question, show you something. I'm not going to leave it on the screen for very long. This is the input I received from personnel about remote learning. And just a couple of things I want to highlight to point out that the teachers and the support staff are in many, many ways in line exactly with what the parents and guardians told me. Accountability is very important, meaning we need to have a structured system whereby to keep kids daily or at least semi-daily checking in, and that would mean personal interaction on a regular basis. So just was one example. Staff called out for more professional development. It's something that I heard from some parents and guardians as well. So the fact that there's so many similar overlapping ideas that I'm collecting gives us the direction that we need to go in August. So come the end of July, when we will have put together a reasonable reentry plan for the time being to potentially bring everybody back, we're going to be spending the entire month of August, the leadership team, members of the union with whom I interact regularly, focusing on those guidelines we're going to have to create that would likely have our teachers meeting with their kids very regularly, perhaps daily, using some of the scheduling options like the parents such as Jen Altman and Jen Voorhees and others presented on a signed document that would have us, maximizing our time. We're going to be taking all those things in consideration in August, providing the professional development the teachers need before the kids come back. And then I can also share this with you, Rob, and the community. One of the proposals we are considering, if we come back, would have us shorten the school day, but not do so to such an extent that it would be a hardship for parents and guardians to arrange childcare, but shorten the day somewhat to allow the teachers to continue their professional development in the area of remote learning. Now, even if we go back all remote in September, we're still going to do something with the school day. We're not going to be having kids on Zoom for 6 hours, 7 hours. I am going to be requiring our teachers to be working the full day, which would mean they have several hours to continue their professional development. So we're going to do this right, and we're going to spend all of August and some of July, once we finish the reentry plan, focusing on that.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, the only reply that I would have is, let's give the teachers and the staff enough time to go through the process. In other words, I know it needs to be turnkeyed, but not like 2 days of practice, but 2 weeks of practice or 3 weeks of practice so that they can really be prepared to deliver. The other thing that I wanted to add about what the community, what the leadership in our town could do and the leadership in our county. I think the county could be counted on a little bit more than it is in terms of things like providing testing, providing health opportunities or health aid to the districts in the town. And I'm not sure that we're necessarily getting that from Middlesex County. I hope that we can count on them because they're actually doing a lot for the community as a whole. So I wonder if they can be passing that along to the school districts in the county. So, thank you.
And Scott, I'm sure you'll be finding out about that, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nothing come up with yet. We'll see if Dr. Nicosia gets any word about how they can help us with the health protection aspect of our work. And I'm
wonderful.
Board, of course.
Thank you.
The reissue plan.
Monique, I think you had your hand up next. There you are.
I did, and I took it down because you essentially answered my question, Scott. But one other question I did have, and I'm curious about whether in the meetings that you have with the borough, do you get a sense that the borough is receiving demographic data on our COVID numbers? I know our numbers are going down, obviously, or at least stabilizing, but do you get reporting on which communities here, or if any, are being disproportionately impacted? Because I think that's important for us to know.
It has to be shared in that group because, and I don't think it might not be the venue to share it if in fact it's happening, because we really just talk about what safety measures we have to continue to put in place. It's more like a task force to make sure that we're keeping the numbers down. So I don't know. No, I'm not sure. The answer is I don't know if they've actually created that. It hasn't been shared.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if they get that data at the borough, but I think that's a question that or a topic that should be discussed in this kind of a meeting, right? Because we're talking about if there are particular communities that are disproportionately impacted, then of course in those communities we have families and children that are likely also going to be disproportionately impacted, and so that impacts our work and our considerations and planning as a school district. So, just trying to kind of draw the lines. We already know what's happening nationally in terms of which communities are being hit the hardest with COVID, but how that impacts us here locally, I think that needs to be, if we can get that data. I'm not sure if the borough is getting that reporting, but I would appreciate it if you really ask that question, perhaps at your next meeting, and then report back to us so we have that information.
Yeah,
that'd be great. Thanks.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. One more question. I was just a little confused. So the not returning plan said that if we're not going to return, there would be synchronous learning. But then I think in the initial, and this was just a scenario, I guess, the idea was asynchronous learning. I believe, yeah, remote learning would be asynchronous under scenario 1. However, somewhere else in the slide presentation, I saw that if we don't return, it would be synchronous. Remote learning would be synchronous. So,
well, we have.
Can you clarify a little bit?
Here to speak in detail about what remote learning would look like if we go back in person. That's tricky. It's something we're working through as the board and the community can imagine. We have to think about how we can manage that, right, effectively. And all kinds of ideas have been thrown out there. But yeah, I mean, I think, again, as I said earlier in my presentation, first things first, we need to settle on what the schedule would look like if we do come back in person, because that's going to dictate a lot of other things that we have to resolve. Because, so for instance, if we do a rotational by week, that could mean we actually, I really, now that I think about it, if we do it by week versus daily, it might not necessarily impact the way we deliver remote learning. But I just can't give you, I don't know that yet until we resolve this.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah. Just one last thing in line with some of the other comments and questions about support that we could be getting from the borough or county. And I think this would probably be more so with the borough, but if we do an early dismissal schedule or some other kind of shortened day, perhaps that support for families, right? Childcare support would be obviously one area that I think would be a reasonable ask for the borough to provide some
Well,
assistance.
so that could actually be a district function if we can do it effectively and safely, because we have a before and after care program. I would love to keep those individuals employed if I can.
Okay.
To provide that support. So that's come up in our conversations as a leadership team about reentry. So if we end early, we would have aftercare start earlier than it used to be during traditional day.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, just because we're, I know you talked about we're centering equity. So in that thinking around this, we really do have to plan for what are we going to do to assist families with childcare in the extent, in the possibility of an early dismissal.
Mr. Ruslevich, I believe you were next.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me that I was concerned about in looking at the plan was I didn't see what sort of planning there is beyond the contract tracing sheet of what the town or the school's district's response will be when something goes wrong. When we have a teacher who the next day after a meeting with 150 students, she tests positive or he tests positive, how do we go about then putting that person into quarantine for 14 days? Is there sick time paid for? Does it go under sick time? How do we then deal with 150 students who were part of a cohort that was going to school every other day or every other week, depending on what kind of cohort they were in, what the response is, how do we facilitate their at-home instruction while they're quarantined, who would pay for the testing? Maybe this is where the town steps up and add some component because they can test then for the students who were exposed. But once a student comes in who tests positive or a teacher who tests positive, how do we deal with that? And then the larger ramifications afterwards, do we have the mental health and everything in place when someone along that contract trace line does become seriously ill or unfortunately would pass away? How do we deal with that? And talking with our kids, are we preparing for that also? Because I see that our plan prepares for how we're going to approach everything in the fall, with these two scenarios, but I don't see how we're responding to it once something breaks.
Well, you're not going to see a lot of details until August 3rd, but I can tell you what we're doing right now to address some of those problems. First of all, I'll echo one thing at first, and that's what I said earlier, that we as a state are waiting for some guidance on what would determine how we handle situations like you just bring up. Now, if what I was commiserating about was a couple of my superintendent colleagues from nearby here, is the reality that we're not going to get guidance from the state. Let's just say, right? They're not going to say, well, if this happens, you'll have to do this. What we agree we would do in that situation is follow the same protocol I followed on March 12th when I found out that I had a child who had in a middle school and had direct contact with somebody who was a known infected COVID-19 individual. I shut down the district. I could see that happening again if I don't get guidance. Now, so I frankly, Rob, I don't see it as an isolated school by school decision. I see it as a district or a district-wide decision we have to make. Look, the health issues we're discussing here are too serious for me to be taking chances to close one school because I only had one person make contact in that school and not the other. I mean, we don't know if that person interacted with friends or siblings in another school. There's just too many variables. I would just shut the district down. Now, in the case of testing, I know that's come up frequently, and as I pointed out earlier in my slide, I'm researching local regional agencies that can perform testing some reasonable a dollar amount. There is one particular group that Old Bridge School District used on a very small level, and I'm reaching out to them now to see how we can connect with them as a low-cost option to conduct some kind of testing, whether it's en masse testing or testing piecemeal. So if I have an employee who returns from a state from the restricted list, didn't necessarily have direct contact, I keep the employee home for 2 weeks, quarantine. I could require if I had my druthers, that employee to get tested at this local agency at little or no cost. So I am investigating, working with some regional group on that. That to your point about how would we continue instruction for kids who are home, or if somehow I didn't close the entire school district, the district knows, specifically the leadership team and some members of the finance committee recognize that there could be money involved here needed to be spent on substitutes, permanent subs that we have on call, or temporary subs. So that's definitely something being considered.
Okay, are there other board questions before we move on to our action items? I don't see any hands, so I'm going to move on. Our first segment is curriculum and instruction. Michelle, would you like to read those items, move those items, read them? Whatever the term is. Yeah, read them.
I'm just going to bring them up really quickly.
Point of order. The agenda calls for the committee reports and then public comment and then board action.
I'm sorry. Yes, I described it incorrectly.
Okay.
Yes, let's have our committee
just
reports.
wanted to make sure.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize. Let's read let's do our committee reports, read through our action items, but not vote on them, and then we'll have public comment.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry, I was unclear.
Okay, so hi. I understood. I was going to go through them. Yeah. So curriculum and instruction only have one item on the agenda because the second item, the approval of the ESSA and IDEA corrective action plan, is going to be tabled until August 8th. So the one item that we have is the approval of the university graduate students. And you can see that list there. There's 3 at Bartle. I'm sorry, 5 at Bartle, 2 at the middle school. And they are all from Rutgers. And it looks like they will be in our science, math, special ed, and social studies and ESL classrooms. We had a committee meeting, and I'm going to try and go through them quickly, but my notes are a bit all over the place, so forgive me if they're a little bit nutty. We were updated by Dr. Taylor on the math redesign, and he had a slideshow for us about that. The current course offerings, they will remain the same as far as I can tell for the current school year coming up, so 2021. That would be Math 6 and Math 6A. So then the following year, 2021, 22, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, I understand that we're going to be then providing our detract math course for grade 6, which would be called Math 6 for All. And there's then the following year, Math 6 Plus. So 7th grade will have 3 options. It will have Math 7 for pre-algebra, Math 7, pre-algebra, and algebra. Christina, Dr. Nicosia, was with us for the meeting, and she said that she hopes for minimizing of 2 options over time for the 7th grade rather than 3. So the idea is to hopefully get everyone working in the same classroom, perhaps not at the same level, but in the same classroom to share ideas and experiences, and to not segregate students into different groups. But that will take some time. So the reason for that is because the committee felt that the complications due to COVID on our systems and all of these other things that we're dealing with, being remote learning and other things, the advanced classes and the type of detracking that we were going for would have to be delayed for many reasons. One of them being lack of internet access, a lack of communication with participants, middle school teacher turnover, end of the year benchmark assessments not occurring this year. So looking forward, things are hopeful. We have a new teacher coming on board in the middle school math program, and she can, can give us the time that we need to kind of iron out the errors and the bumps in the road that were, there previous. So a fresh start. The idea, Dr. Njsia said, is that we collectively need to avoid repetitive and wasteful math curriculum, K through 12. So the PD that she is advocating for, and that will, get us to the level of readiness for this math redesign, that will help us to smooth out any kind of repetitive math curriculum. And I know the students listening understand what that means, reviewing things every single time you start with a new teacher, a new school year. By the time you've got, halfway down the road, you've started new topics finally, and constant repetition means that you are wasting time. So Dr. Njsia does recognize that, and that is something that we are hoping to eliminate soon. Small group instruction will be focused on the workshop model, she told us. So because there will be different types of learners in the room, different levels of learning, small group instruction will be a key to making sure that everyone gets what they need. Let's see, she mentioned benchmark assessments, data sets in place for percentage of students. I'm not really sure what that note means, Scott. Can you fill in the blanks there?
Benchmark assessments?
Yes.
Just a means of tracking their progress so we can make better instructional decisions. We haven't been able to do much of it over the last 3-4 months. I mean, I think what you're I'll leave it at that.
Oh, sorry. I think I finally understood my note. It was that, because of the remote learning situation, we haven't been able to do those benchmark assessments. So we don't have the data that we need in order to place students where they would belong, which was another reason why the delay occurred. And then we had Ms. Rodriguez, our new supervisor of humanities, join us, and that was wonderful. She talked to us about so many different things, but basically she said that there was a collective meeting happening that was July 7th of the curriculum writers, and that this is a great opportunity, she said, to be reflective and provide support for any advocacy that we might need in our curriculum writing so that we prioritize. We did a lot of talking about social justice units, not being a calendar-driven traditional unit structure, but she was looking at it from a big picture perspective, our social studies and history education. And so she was talking about ways in which we could consolidate and collaborate social studies, history, and English curriculum writers' information and knowledge throughout K through 12, so that we would have social justice units educating students in a way that is not focused on grade level necessarily, but a very broad perspective on our social justice curriculum. So basically putting social justice in the center of everything that we are doing. She told us that the curriculum writers are going to be using a framework for their curriculum writing from Teaching Tolerance, which is a great website if you want to check it out, anyone. And they have social justice standards. It's a set of 20 anchor standards, K to 12, and they divide them into 4 domains: identity, diversity, justice, and action. So it's a different way of providing a structure for the curriculum writers that I think all of us were very excited about. Let's see. She gave us an example of the type of things they would be doing, but without getting into too much detail, she did say that we have been blessed with an advisor in this process, Dr. Lacey Hunter. from Rutgers Newark. And she will hopefully be getting compensated for her advisement, but we're working that out yet.
Worked out.
Yes, oh great. So she is someone who is a professional in the area of African American history. I don't know her entire background in order to tell you about her, but it was very important for the committee that we hear that, because this is a very important mindset or shift or whatever you want to call it in terms of curriculum writing. And so I think that Ms. Rodriguez really understood that, and she hunted people down to get them to help. I mean, every person who has expertise in this area is really in demand, thankfully. And we're really happy to have Dr. Hunter's advisement. In September, Ms. Rodriguez told us that the units would be introduced to staff. And well, this is the plan. Like we said, September is a big question mark. But the plan is that the units would be introduced to staff along with materials provided. PD would be given on how to talk to students about race and culturally responsive teaching. And there would be a teacher accountability measure. We didn't get much detail on that, but that was an important thing to highlight, that is a component of the plan. And that is planned for September. So whether that's in person, remote, we don't know. Let's see. We also talked about implementing unit study and how that would go about with teacher accountability. The lesson plans would be reviewed, and I guess there would be some oversight on the topics of social justice, so that everyone was comfortable teaching, presenting, and accepting information. So this is not an accountability measure in a punitive sense. It's more making sure that everyone has what they need. And then we also discussed the African American history elective, which would be a detailed study of African American history. That would obviously, being an elective, would be a voluntary class, but that would be running in the spring of 2021. Currently, we have in the high school a class called Race, Gender, Ethnicity, and that's given in the fall. But I think that we haven't determined exactly the curriculum or the presentation, right? The pedagogy.
Curriculum from 2016, but I actually got a request today to update that particular curriculum guide to make it more relevant.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be recommending to the board curriculum committee that we pay a curriculum writer to do that work. It'll probably be Adam Gold because he's teaching that class.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I think one of the things that came up in our meeting that was really important and I wanted to highlight was that, and Monique was the committee member to voice this, is that we want student interest to be what drives the curriculum for that elective. So I'm sure that, Mr. Gold understands how important that is, and I'm sure that he would be, welcoming that type of curriculum writing process. But it would, in our committee's priority, it was important for us to make sure that student voice was leading the discussion or the direction, and that the instructor was a guide in that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how better to explain that, but that was definitely something that we wanted to highlight. Okay, almost done. We discussed the Soar program, that is the mental health program that will be starting July 15th, going till August 6th. That's an in-person program. It came out of the concern for the mental health of students who are in need of social time in a safe setting during this pandemic. 11 mental health specialists, including Dr. Scott Roth, they were involved. in planning this program. And Dr. Roth was instrumental in making sure that we include coping and skill building, so that even away from this group, there was growth occurring. I think we could all use that, right? Coping and skill building.
Michelle, are you about ready to wrap up? We just, I see we have so many public commenters potentially here.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
No, it's so interesting, but I just want to make sure that we're getting towards the end.
Yeah, we are, definitely. It was a 2-hour committee meeting.
It sounds like so much was covered.
We talked about so much. Yeah, so, okay. So that group is going to be meeting Monday through Thursday, 9 to 12. 2 groups each school twice a week, Monday and Wednesday, then Tuesday and Thursday. We also discussed the LGBTQIA.
High Tops professional support. Yeah.
So High Tops will be providing us with intensive professional development. And I don't think that there's anything else. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Sorry to hurry you along. I just got worried about our public here. And perhaps not everybody wants to comment, but just in case.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It was 2 solid hours, and it was a really productive meeting. So
it sounds like it was one of our most substantive meetings that we've had in quite a while.
Yeah, so maybe, if anyone has questions, I can take them through email.
Fantastic.
Offline.
Fantastic. Thank you. Did the board have questions or comments about Michelle's report? Or the committee, or the agenda items? Nope. Okay, Mark, go ahead with finance, please. Your report and the items on the agenda to explain.
Yeah. So we had I'm on. We had a meeting just before the executive session. We talked about the agenda items, and we talked about the updating our last year's budget and money situation, so we would know more clearly and closely how much we have this year to use, given the dire situation we're in. And we're working on that. The auditors have been talking to Linda, and we'll have some numbers very soon. So on the agenda, I'm going to pull that up in front of me. Items 1 through 12 are our typical general and cafeteria bill lists, financial reports, certifications, budget transfers, and travel spreadsheets. Item 13 is approval of contractors for professional services. This is our, I would say, usual group. We are paying E-rate for special access for special pricing, speech and language therapist, learning disabilities teacher, athletic training services, the Educational Service Commission, and the stipends for the Welcome to the World event that was planned for June 16th, I believe, but which will be held at a later time. And the last item there is a Title I non-public tutoring teacher at a school that we pass the money through to. Item 14 is a donation from DonorsChoose.org to purchase historical fiction books for Kelsey Fitzgerald's class. Item 15 is annual membership to the NJSIAA. Item 16 is an increase in the school lunch prices. As the costs to our vendor have gone up based on state action which is positive on minimum wage. Item 17 is a item to approve all of our insurance coverages. Item 18 is approval of extended school year out of district summer programs for various children in special education programs per their IEPs. Item 19 is approval of a settlement agreement, also which is for a special ed student per our attorney's recommendation. Item 20 is renewal of the ACES electric program enhancement participation. We get 40% renewable energy savings and pay very, very low prices based on this program. Item 21 is the beginning of the items based around the pandemic. It's a submission for public assistance from FEMA. We're working on the costs now, but we have to pass this in order to be able to submit requests for FEMA. FEMA will pay us back 75% of certain expenses. They have to be non-reusable and they have to be associated with staff and instruction, not with student costs. Among other things, there's a set of rules. Items 22 through 33 are all items that have to do with the pandemic, and they have to do with money which we are spending that comes from the CARES grant and the public FEMA grant. So they include face masks, Chromebooks, tablets, more Chromebooks, more laptops, electrostatic cleaners, disinfectants, hand sanitizers, plexiglass barriers, and I think that's it. That's number 33. Item 34 is priming and repainting Bartle School, gym interior wall. That was budgeted. It has nothing to do with the pandemic. 36 is waterproofing the Bartle School gym exterior wall. It also was budgeted. Item 38 is installation of bathroom partitions, also and 39, which were also budgeted. Item 40 and 41 is installation of security film at our buildings for security reasons. Item 42 and 43 are budgeted, and those are removal and replacement of concrete sidewalks at Irving. Item 44 is loosely related to the pandemic, and we may get the bulk of this back. We've had a plan to air condition everything possible using mini splits. Some of the the vast majority of the mini splits have been installed over the past 5 or 6 or 7 years. These are the remaining rooms, which we had been planning to do over the next year and a half. But given the pandemic and the desire to get air conditioning with outside air into the buildings, we've gone out and purchased any of these Friedrich window air conditioners. Again, this wasn't budgeted. We may get the bulk of this back from FEMA since we have had a plan for a more permanent solution, but we have to do this, especially if we have staff and children in classrooms with a lot of hot weather in the fall. Item 45 was non-budgeted. This is and 46, non-budgeted items to install new water meters, which has been required of us by the water department. And that's my report.
Wonderful, thanks. Are there any questions for Mark from the board? Let me check the hands here. I see no hands are raised. All right, we'll go on to personnel. Oh, Darcy, sorry.
Sorry, just a super quick one. I had a super quick question about the purchase of the Chromebooks. And when we did our big purchase last year, obviously we did that through a lease agreement. I was wondering if there was a reason now to do the purchase versus a lease agreement, if that had something to do with the reimbursement through the CARES Act. I'm assuming that's what it is, but I was
Yes, it is. The CARES Act will cover all of those. So we will just use that money to buy those.
Okay. Gotcha. Thanks.
You're welcome. I asked the same question.
I figured you did.
And I found the answer.
Cool. Anybody else? Wave your hands high. I don't notice them very often. Okay, moving on to personnel. We did meet on July 6th. For the most part, the contents of the meeting were confidential, involving personnel matters, or involving issues that are sort of not ready for public discourse at this time. We did talk about preparations to implement a more detailed survey of staff members to determine how many of our staff members feel comfortable coming back, and how many have, you know, pre-existing vulnerabilities that would make an in-person return to school very difficult. So Scott's going to be working on that.
Want to clarify that. So actually an update. I will be the one to administer that second survey. It'll likely go out later this week. I'm going to be modeling some of my questions after, I think it is the Old Bridge survey that they did, which was, I thought, very deftly done. So that'll be from me later in the week.
Fantastic. Obviously, that will have a big impact on how much remote versus how much in-person schooling we'll be able to do for the coming year. The agenda is quite long. I'm not going to go through it item by item because it's very self-explanatory. I will say that we are sad to see several resignations from Ms. Is it Alexandropoulos? Is it Ms. or Dr. Ashley Alshouse, Scott? Is she a doctor?
Doctor.
Dr. Alshouse is resigning. We're sorry to see you go. Ms. Allen at Bartle. I think that is it, but thank you for your service, and we're sorry to see you all leave us. Here we go. The number 8 is the approval of a social worker in the Ed Services Department. Scott, that was going to take over part of the job of a learning disabilities teacher consultant, correct? It's part of the restructuring of that role?
Yes.
Okay, so welcome. Let's see if there's anything else that needed.
Don't forget, we had one read-in. We left out.
Yep.
Read-in. Yeah.
I got a bunch of read-ins. I'm going to go through those.
There's 3 read-ins.
Yes, I have 3 read-ins.
Got them, okay.
I know. I mean, it's true. I'm usually struggling with the basics of the agenda, but I think I got that. All right. I believe that is everything that might require some explanation, although people should feel free to ask questions in a moment. All right. Let me get my read-ins. Number 935. Okay, here we go. Number 54 is the last item on the agenda. Number 55 is a new item. I'm going to be moving that we accept the resignation with regrets of a Bartle Elementary School teacher. Oh, that's Ms. Ashley Toth, who is leaving us effective June 30th, 2020, and we are sorry to see her leave. Number 56 is the approval of an elementary teacher at Bartle Elementary School. Scott, I realized that I seem to have dropped the name of the teacher. Was that to add a position, or is that hiring a particular teacher?
And I do want to assure the rest of the board that this was a position I discussed with the Personnel Committee. We left it off this agenda because we hadn't received Ms. Toth's resignation in time.
Okay.
But I did share the resume of Dina Altar, and her resume is also in the board personnel folder.
Wonderful.
I'll make one comment. Dina is one of, I believe, 6 student teachers who we hired this year alone from Rutgers. She was very successful with us at Irving as a student teacher.
That Rutgers program is amazing, letting us sort of see teachers in action before we hire them.
We've gotten the likes of Aislinn Stodowski is one of our hits, Alice Kim, Rutgers, I believe Franny Drachman, who I think is here. I think she's a Rutgers person. So yeah, we've done really well with Rutgers students.
That's wonderful. Well, welcome. And number 57 is the approval of Educational Services Translator for the coming school year. I'm going to be moving that we accept, I have to take off my glasses, old lady style here. I move that the Board of Ed accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the following staff as translators for the Ed Services Department in the languages listed below for the 2020 to 21 school year. It's Carolina, I apologize for not knowing how to pronounce people's names. Carolina, Ms. Broderick will be translating in Spanish. Ms. Chang will be translating Mandarin. Dr. Esteban, is it Hiner?
What's that?
Dr. Esteban, how do you pronounce the second word in his name? Is it Hiner?
We call Dr. Esteban.
Dr. Esteban. Dr. Esteban will be translating Spanish. Sabera Niger will be translating Bengali. I'm sure I have that wrong, I apologize. Ms. Shiveva Panagos will be translating Russian, Ms. Tadros, Arabic, Ms. Vargas, Spanish. Those will all be at $39.80 per hour. with a gap code depending on the student school, but they're all of the form 11-000-219-110- then there follows a 3-digit number representing the school, -11-11. So I will be moving that. Oh, now I see Ms. Altar here, the wrong place in my agenda. All right. Are there any questions about the personnel agenda or what we discussed at our committee? Wave your hands high. No questions. Okay, Mark, let's move on to policy.
Yes, thank you. Okay. So I have to get this up. Yes. So we are going to move 3 items for first reading. 2 of them are mandatory. 2200 curriculum content, 2260 affirmative action programs for school and classroom practice mandatory, and 2440A for academic recovery. And then second reading, we're going to move 2 items. The first is 1511 website accessibility, and 6471 school district travel, which is mandatory.
Are there questions for Mark or comments? Okay, equity and excellence. Monique, did you have a report for us?
Okay, thank you. I wrote these notes. Yes, we did meet July 6th. Some of the topics that we covered were already also covered in Michelle's report, so that'll help condense what I have to say. Our first topic, however, was the National Honor Society Diversity Initiatives. Scott reported that he is looking into the GPA average minimum so that we can determine what, if any, flexibility we may have around that. And once he gets that information, he's going to share that with the new NHS advisor, Mr. Mike Cray, who will then approve whatever GPA average he feels he would want to implement in our club. Rob suggested actually reaching out to some of the students this summer to encourage them to apply to NHS, you know, instead of waiting till September. So students who may be sort of kind of at that level of possibly being just close but not quite there in terms of the traditional GPA standards. Scott said he would look into that. And again, we just had more of a discussion around grassroots recruiting of students, which I know is hard to do in the, you know, this time with COVID and quarantining, semi-quarantining. But, you know, we do want to focus on more outreach generally as much as we can. We also talked about increasing the focus on picking charities that are fighting racism. That would be an important part of the recruitment effort as well. So Scott, in this particular comment here that you share, and that has to do with the NHS fundraising. Okay, just want to make sure I'm clear on that. So a part of their focus this year in terms of charities will be on groups that are fighting racism and making that a priority. They also want to look at partnering with clubs that are pursuing advocacy for diversity, such as AC at the Table, and AC at the Table is the high school club at our high school that has already been around, you know, focus on issues of equity and diversity in our high school. And lastly, talked about the NHS looking, Mr. McRae and I guess Scott have talked about NHS former members from diverse backgrounds coming back to speak to current students and try to encourage them to apply as well, which may be something that needs to be done remotely. But I think the idea is that whether it's remote or whether it's in person, these are actions that, you know, we really want to see start to happen before September, ideally. The second action item was definitely covered for the most part, and that is the African American history class at the high school, the new elective that's being developed, as well as the social justice curriculum. I will add to that discussion, however, that we, our committee also looked at the importance of getting more support and more of an infrastructure around these initiatives that we are looking to implement, whether it's minority staff recruitment or our extracurricular curriculum diversity initiatives, but getting more support for our administration and leadership in seeing through and pushing through these kind of initiatives. And Rod Magaziner actually suggested that we consider some sort of funded position, such as an equity and excellence or diversity and inclusion officer, whatever we want to call it, who would really spearhead these initiatives and really in all of the district's decision making. So the idea would be that that person would be there to advise and provide guidance and support from development through implementation of all the district's initiatives in these areas. So I think we all were in agreement, the three of us who were at this particular meeting, that this is something that we would really like to see discussed and talked about in personnel and finance committees. Then the next item, Scott updated us on the efforts around diversifying the district evaluation advisory committee. And that is the team of the staff members who look at setting the evaluation guide. Correct, Scott? Am I getting it?
No, it's actually the group that yes, does decide on the instruments, called the District Evaluation Advisory Committee.
Yes, okay. And so what you did share was, I think there was some concern about the lack of diversity in that group that was pointed out by another board member in, I believe, curriculum committee meeting, the last curriculum committee meeting. And you did share that there's an addition of 3 Black teachers, Nicole Parham at Irving, Catherine Lavelle at Bartle, and Evan Rogers Farmer, who is dual certified, and at the middle school. This particular team meets 4 times per year, and as you said, determines evaluation guides that will be used. Scott, you did share that the team at this time has 1 Latinx member, and we all talked about the need to hopefully try to continue to diversify that team. Next item we discussed was, and this was basically a new item not on the agenda, I asked about where we stand on our recruiting and retaining teachers of color initiatives. And Scott did reshare highlights from a presentation that Elaine Davis provided to Central Leadership in last December. Mrs. Davis is a former high school principal in Montclair who has experience in social justice programs, who the district contacted to help with these initiatives, right? How do we find and recruit and then retain minority staff? She recommended creating a retention program to show that the district is committed to keeping teachers of color when we do find and hire them. However, I think what happened was that her support really kind of stopped at that consultative presentation and initial, I guess, reporting of what we can do as a district. And beyond that, Scott, acknowledged that their work hasn't really begun on following through on even some of the suggestions that she made. And there was some concern about even how effective, I think, or how helpful some of the information that she presented actually was. So by the leadership team. So I think the takeaway there was that, again, we need someone who in-house is going to be there to help us really to guide us through this process and take some of the burden off you, Scott, and leadership team who, these issues are not your wheelhouses, right? So having someone who's really there to lead and guide us would be helpful, and more than just a consultative capacity. Then we talked about the what's happening now around racism and kind of the global movement, Black Lives Matter and social justice movements, and what impact that might have on our students when we do return to in-person learning, and to whatever extent we do in September, if at all, at that point. So I think the discussion was, how do we protect, students who, Black students who may feel like they experience, blowback, racism? How do we empower Black student voice when we return? And so I know, Scott, you shared that you've already took the initiative to reach out to some Black student alumni, and you had a listening session with them where they shared some of their thoughts and experiences, and some of them, specifically Ashton Burrell, who had kind of their fingers on the current students and what some of their concerns might be, and you found this listening session to be helpful. We talked about continuing to do that, but tapping into the current students, obviously, and trying to get feedback from them in terms of what their concerns are, how they could feel more supported, how you can empower them, and the leadership team can empower them.
My next session is going to be August 4th.
Oh, it's already scheduled. Great. Since
yeah, an email is going directly to our student body in about a week or 2 weeks, because I don't want to do it too soon, a week before the date. And I have a couple of teachers who offered to attend, and one is also going to help me get involved with the student body to try to draw them in. So hopefully we'll have a good turnout on August 4th.
Oh, nice. Okay, so how are you promoting this? Because I know that, and this is for students and teachers, not parents, right? Because I know that initially you contacted parents to.
This is just for students.
Okay.
I'm going to direct email them in a couple of weeks. So I haven't actually broadcasted this yet, but it's going to take place at 3 o'clock on August 4th. And I had a couple of teachers volunteer to help out, and I high school teachers, and I welcomed them aboard. And one of them who has, very close with the student body, well respected by the kids, is going to help me get the word out on his level.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And that kind of covers what we talked about, is just the importance of direct outreach to current students, and you've already done that since our meeting. So that's good to hear. And that's all I have to report. We had a bunch of other items that we didn't get to that we pushed off until our July 27th meeting.
Wonderful. Thanks, Monique. Did anybody have questions or comments? Give me a big wave. All right. Well, the time has come. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policies 164 and 167 establish and regulate the right of the public to participate in public meetings. So the best way to do this is, why don't you raise your hand if you're in the public and you'd like to speak. If you could raise your virtual hand on Zoom, that would be helpful. And I will do my best to figure out who was first and who was second, but please give me some leeway if I mess that up. First, I see Jennifer Altman. I'm going to unmute you, hopefully. I tried to unmute you. You may have to unmute yourself, Ms. Altman. Let's see if we can get you to do that.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Should I do my video or no? Or
if you'd like to, yes, absolutely.
Sure, I'll put myself. Let me see. You can see how I look on a lovely Monday evening. Okay, hi everybody.
You're gorgeous. Hello.
Okay, so I know I have a letter, so I'm just going to go right to it. I'm going to try.
Excuse me. Can you give me your street address, please?
Oh, sure. 31 Walter Avenue.
Oops, thank you.
Sure. I just have a letter. I'm just going to read it, which also helps with nervousness. And I will try to speak quickly, but I don't want to speak so quickly that you can't hear the letter. So, okay. So this was actually originally written for the Remote Learning Forum, which Dr. Taylor had kindly offered to have for parents, guardians, and students. So, dear Dr. Taylor, BOE members, curriculum directors, principals, and teachers. We begin this letter by thanking all of you for your valiant efforts to continue our children's education during this pandemic. We're thrilled to have this forum to give feedback on your goals to improve remote learning if it is necessary this fall. And actually, I'm going to stop myself. I forgot to say this. I understand we may have a hybrid. I understand we might go back to full remote. So this letter is directly about remote learning. This is not about an open policy. This is about suggestions for remote learning. Okay. As I'm sure you've witnessed, some students were able to adjust and some significantly struggled. Through informal discussions among parents and guardians in town, we found that for those who struggled, the consequences were dire, even leading to a complete mental withdrawal from school. For those who were able to adjust and complete assignments and even receive good grades, most still found the experience uninspiring due to minimal teacher interaction and assignments that sometimes lacked a purposeful meaning. As a result, we consulted with many Highland Park residents who are teachers or administrators in other New Jersey school districts. We inquired on what worked best for them, engaging students and helping them adjust to the difficult task of sitting in front of a computer screen for several hours a day. So below are 3 main recommendations that we got. And just to give you a highlight, one is teacher-led instruction, one is intentional teaching and assignments, and the third is an A-B day schedule. So let me just give you a little on that. Recommendation 1, teacher-led instruction, required in class days for both teachers and students. It was clearly unanimous among all the parents we talked to that their children enjoyed and felt they learned the most in courses that included required instruction each time the class met. In other words, we recommend that teachers be required to provide actual live or recorded instruction, and that students be required to participate and or watch as an attendance mandate. Students not only felt more connected to these teachers and subjects, but the focus on instruction rather than at individually assigned assignments increased the time spent on learning content and greatly assist in students' ability and motivation to complete any assigned work outside of the instructional class time. We also found that parents reported that these sessions should not be offered as optional, as then parents faced a battle over whether their children would take part. And this was across the board from every age group that we encountered. Additionally, those teachers should mute both the audio and the video of other students, especially at the younger ages, unless of course the teacher is asking for questions or running a class discussion. In the younger grades, Irving and Bartle, that have one teacher running a whole day of instruction, it may be more prudent and feasible to have each teacher take on one subject in which they administer the instructional time. Note, we realize that every student and teacher alike have unique circumstances affecting their ability to be at the computer at the exact same time. Childcare responsibilities, new flexible family schedules, digital divides, Wi-Fi connectivity, we could go on and on. Thus, we provide the various scenarios suggested below from teachers and educational staff. In closing, required instruction and attendance must set the bar, and accommodations should be made to assist any students struggling with this approach. And we have bullets for asynchronous lessons, synchronous lessons, or even a hybrid approach. But the idea that students were not getting actual instructions from their teachers. They were just getting videos and assignments. Recommendation 2, intentional teaching and assignments. Without access to their lesson plans and other prepared curriculum, we realized that teachers were asked the improbable feat of creating instant assignments and activities. In many cases, this led to students being assigned a lot of take-home work on their own, assignments that left them overwhelmed and under-engaged. With the movement to more instructional time and less homework per day, and to reduce the hours per day that children must sit at a computer screen, we believe it is critical that all schoolwork and teaching be extremely intentional. As the cliche goes, quality, not quantity, and less busy work. Additional points to assist with this included things like giving feedback, teacher-team consistency, and more project-based learning, but I won't go into detail. The last recommendation, recommendation 3, is an A-B day schedule. We recommend that all schools follow an A-B day schedule. And we put a chart in our letter to give an example, something like on just one example is A day might be, ELA, social studies and PE, B day be math, science and elective, and then it goes back to those A day for Wednesday and goes back to the B day for Thursday, and Friday is catch up, or it could be a Wednesday. We found in every district that we talked to, we know this is not scientific, but we talked about 7 different districts. They all had A-B schedules, especially even at the middle school, which we did not, and even at the elementary level. And the idea being that it frees up teachers to do higher quality instruction. It frees up students to have time to take part in instruction as well as take part in homework. And no one's overwhelmed, I mean, everyone's overwhelmed, but less overwhelmed by computer time. This would relieve some of the increased work, I'm repeating, for both teachers to accomplish 1 and 2, which I mentioned. Teachers could then focus on just 2 intentional and instructional classes per week. It allows students more time to complete the assignments on days not occupied with remote instruction, as well as reach out to teachers for assistance and support. This ensures students are not looking at a computer screen for too many hours in one day, avoiding burnout and other health and social emotional consequences. So our middle schoolers this year did have 6 or 7 classes a day, and sometimes there was some instruction, not really, and then sometimes there was homework, and it just became, most kids just checked out, or they just did it to get it done. This is just from a middle school perspective. That's my little tangent that isn't in the letter. Okay, so just once again, thank you for providing this opportunity for feedback. Really, thank you, thank you. We know the district has really worked diligently on the social and emotional well-being of our students. But if we've learned anything from this experience, is that the well-being of our children's social and emotional state is also highly associated with meaningful and engaging educational experience, especially in a remote environment. So we got about, we just sent this out for signatures about a week ago. We've already got over, I just heard, I think 66 families, and it's still going out there. So hopefully that was helpful, and we really appreciate you allowing us to give you our recommendations.
Of course. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the letter, and please be rest assured it is in the mix very much.
Oh,
so thanks so much to everybody who signed it and created it. Are there other public comments? Please try to raise your little blue hand in your Zoom if you can. I'm going to wait for a second to make sure everybody who wanted to speak has a chance to. If you're unable to raise your digital hand, feel free to turn on your video and wave physically like this in case something's going wrong. Let's do a quick check here. All right, I'm not seeing any more public commenters at this time. If you were trying to comment and couldn't get on, we do have another public comment coming up. Oh wait, I do have a hand I'm seeing. Dr. Rob Scott. If you could unmute yourself and feel free to show your video if you'd like. I'm trying to unmute you from my end, but I'm not sure it's working. There you go.
Yeah, sorry.
It's fine. Hi.
People were going to talk. I wanted to hear other people.
Well, it's lovely to hear you.
Thank you very much. I'm Rob Scott. I'm at 25 2nd Avenue in Highland Park. And I just wanted to thank Dr. Taylor for the presentation on reopening and reentry plans. And I can see that this is a really hard thing. I can't imagine the nightmare of all of the details. And I was glad to hear Dr. Taylor talking about pushback to the state in as much as where they have not given guidance. And I was very happy to hear discussion of what I think is probably possibly the most important thing about the reopening plan is what are the conditions under which we shut down again. So I just kind of wanted to follow up with a comment on that. I hope that come August 3rd or when we get the reopening plan, that part of the reopening plan will be a very transparent discussion of exactly what the triggers are that will cause another shutdown of the school so that parents know that.
And if I might, Rob,
yes.
We're discussing that. I brought that up at our first meeting, and I'm working with Chris Woodward and Ann and Dr. Taylor to put together criteria for not opening. You know, if the retransmission rate goes to 5 or something crazy over the summer, and also for reclosing in the case that something second, third, fourth wave hit us in the fall. That is on the agenda, it's in writing, and we're trying to get the numbers together.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and that is very good to hear. The other thing I just wanted to throw out, though, I was happy to hear that there's some consideration of testing, which you've all heard me go on and on about, is that's the most important thing ever. The one thing I didn't hear, I know Dr. Taylor, you said our first day of school is September 8th. I'm wondering if there is some consideration of just kind of delaying, kind of like sometimes if you're prey and you're in the forest and you have to cross a gap and there are predators out there, you wait, you let the others go first. And it seems to me there might be some wisdom in a week or a 2-week delay from Highland Park might allow us to see what happens at other school districts, and also have the very positive part associated with that is it just gives us more time to prepare for what are going to be very, very complicated options.
Yeah, that has been discussed. Actually, I discussed that with Mark and Ann on one of our frequent calls, and that is to change the calendar in some respect. So it's something we can circle back to because Rob, I don't know if you're aware, but Morristown School District appears to be one of the first in the state to officially declare that it is adjusting its calendar, except what they're doing is they're actually delaying the entrance of students to school, but they're bringing the teachers back before those kids come back, in addition to whatever extra professional development days they plan. I don't know how they're doing it fiscally, because for every day that a teacher is in more than the kids are in, is going to cost that school district compensation. But we can certainly explore the idea of looking at calendar changes for all of our district.
So those were my only comments. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, let's see. Let me wait a few minutes for anybody else who'd like to talk to raise their digital hand or turn their video on and physically wave at the screen. Oh, I see Andrew Zappo. Let's see. I'm going to unmute you from my end. Looks like you're unmuted. You can activate your video if you'd like or leave it off. Up to you.
I'm just going to leave it off.
Okay, thanks.
So thanks very much for your service. I had spoken about this.
Let me interrupt you just to say that I know Linda's going to ask, could you give your address,
Oh,
please?
sorry.
That's fine.
Andrew Zappo, 131 Johnson Street.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ann. I had asked this question, and it's just kind of a follow-up because I was a little late coming into the meeting. And I know that the last meeting about reopening was just a short time ago, but and if this was mentioned, I apologize. Okay. Was there any discussion by the board on how you're going to quantify the number of students who were, for lack of a better word, lost due to the digital divide and not being able to connect with their teachers during remote learning at all? Meaning they were attending school when it was a normal session and then were unable to attend or just didn't attend. And I'll use my son's example like I did in the remote learning session. I was able to count 2 or 3 children who just disappeared, you know, from the moment it started more or less till it ended. You know, he may have shown one, I know showed maybe once or twice, but you know, I'm sure Declan's class was not the only one that this happened in, and you guys have a way to quantify that with your educators. So come the fall, if we are in remote space again, that gap can be bridged. I know Mark had talked about getting more devices through the CARES Act, which is awesome, and just knowing that you guys have a plan to breach that divide.
And can I answer that question?
Can I just clarify one thing for Andrew? I just did want to clarify for the community that we did seek to get enough laptops into students' hands at Bartle. So we didn't just say, oh, good luck, Bartle kids. That said, I mean, you're absolutely right. Even with those extra laptops for Bartle students, many kids dropped out. So Scott, yes, please.
Oh, well, yeah, I know, Andrew, I want to echo what Andrew said. We actually had, we did a lot of work to collect machines off of carts, took loaders. We ended up equipping all of the kids we knew had to go remote, starting with grade 2. But I'm reading your question to be more broad and to think more about the kids we lost, not only because of the digital divide, but the social emotional divide, I mean, you know, the mental health divide. I'll put this out there, and forgive me if it doesn't directly address your question. We had all of our counselors make lists of students who dropped off the face of the earth. We had some kids whose teachers told us just never, ever came to a Zoom meeting or a Google Meet or chat. So we have those lists of students. We are using those lists currently to invite them to the Soar program, which you might be familiar with, Spirit, Optimism, Affirmation, and Repair. It's a program I created to provide some in-person mental health support. And we're also working on a middle and high school academic support program that is going to be very small to hone in on the kids we lost the ones who were just completely, fell off the face of the earth. I should also add, though, before I get to the high school, we have an elementary program that's still going to run called SHIP. It's a holistic intervention program where we're going back to those lists of kids that we called who, again, fell off the face of the earth. And in the case of the academic support programs, we're not just talking about the kids who completely didn't show up. We're talking about kids who our teachers also flagged as they stopped in, but they didn't do any work for whatever reason, maybe because of their reaction to the virus crisis. So if that's what you mean by tracking, that we did do, identifying. Am I on the right track, Andrew?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I said yes. I don't know if you heard me.
Yeah, no, we got you. We got you.
So sometimes I talk and I shut everything else out, so forgive me, Andrew.
Scott, could I ask, I know we're not planning to buy Wi-Fi routers for every student in the district. How are we going about figuring out who needs a Wi-Fi router, especially at Bartle and Irving?
Yeah, we have lists. I would show you, but they've got names of kids on them.
Yeah, no, it is a list.
We spent a lot of time. It took us a couple of weeks after we went, once we went full on remote, we committed to it because we knew this was long. It happened third week of March. We did whatever we could. We reached out to counselors who we know there were certain families that didn't have access. Of course, we put out Honeywells and whatnot. And eventually we called a list, double digits in each of our schools. And what we were able to do and will continue to do is to provide them access. We don't, and those of you who are technology savvy know what I'm referring to, we don't need to actually buy extra hardware for them. We're having them tap into existing hotspots, such as the kind that Optimum provides and AT&T provides. And we then, what we end up doing is we coordinate with the family, checking in with one of our technicians who actually guides a parent or student or guardian through the process of entering the information on the computer to get to that hotspot.
So where that program is going to start up again, that's great. I thought they were ending it or we wouldn't be able to afford it. I'm glad to hear that.
There's a cost to it, but we're going to be using our care funding part of our care funding to support it.
That's great. That's great. And as far as you know, all the people who received it, what is it? It's called LightPath or something. Is that right? LightPath?
Providing the hotspot.
Yeah. Are all the families that needed it close enough to a physical hotspot that they could take advantage of the program? Because I know you have to be able to access a Optimum.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I could ask Christina. As far as I know, nobody got back to us to say, hey, I'm in a dead spot.
All right.
With Christina and find out, our director of STEM.
Andrew, I'm sorry. I think you might have had more to say. I don't know. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Not necessarily. I mean, the technology aspect of it sounds like it's covered. And the SHIP program and the other one you mentioned, they're going to handle the percentage of families where the children dropped off, maybe not less because they were not engaged and more because the family situation didn't warrant or even allow those kids to be involved because at home it just didn't work. The parents were overburdened with their own requirements and the kids had no one to turn to help them out.
Right. Yeah, so we're going to have our counselors help to identify those kids, and then they're going to pass that contact information along to the teachers. There's a handful of teachers who I want to work this program, which is going to start in late July for a month. It'll go on for a month leading up to the beginning of school.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much.
For asking.
Thanks, Andrew. Other public commenters, go ahead and attempt to raise your virtual hand.
And Darcy's hand is up.
Oh, I did not see
You're
that.
looking for other people. I'll just fill the silence for a second.
Go for it.
Saying just how much I appreciate that, here in town, we have people who will wait for 2.5 hours to make public comment because they want to make sure other people's kids are being cared for. Like Andrew, my hat is off to you, dude. That's just fantastic.
Yeah.
It warms my heart.
Yeah, it really does. Thanks, Andrew, and everyone else who's here and concerned about that. Let me check again. I'm not seeing any blue hands. I know sometimes it takes a minute for them to appear. You can also feel free to unmute your video and wave your hand around if you're having trouble. It looks like the chat is actually enabled, so if you do have a question you need to get out there in the next 30 seconds or so, you can chat. You can type it into the chat. Did I hear someone talking? Mark, did I hear your voice? I thought I heard a lower pitched voice.
No, that wasn't me.
Okay.
And there's no one in chat asking to speak.
Yeah, no. Yeah, thank you. Okay. All right. Well, we'll end this public comment session. We'll have a second one after our board action items, which we are now going to move to.
And if I could just say something really quickly.
Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
I see. No, it's just I think in response to the parents' concerns, like I would like to say that we did a lot of conversation and just the beginning of, the conversation that we want to do about making the curriculum student guided, student led, and meaningful. So I think that is definitely the direction that we're headed. I just wanted to say that on behalf of the curriculum committee, Dr. Taylor, and the supervisors. We all discussed that exact thing. So it's definitely.
Oh, I lost you, Michelle. Hold on. I can't.
Hello?
I'm sorry. I lost your last 10 seconds, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I just really quickly wanted to let the parents that are listening and the rest of the community know that the curriculum committee is seeing what you're seeing. Like we did discuss this with Taylor and the supervisors. And I think that that's the direction that we're headed as far as, making this curriculum meaningful, student oriented. And, Dr. Taylor and I have been talking a lot about strengths-based education and really, trying not to get too negative on what we're not too interested in, not forcing anything, trying to really celebrate the things that we're interested in. So I think that is the direction that our administration and definitely the curriculum committee are headed. So I just wanted to give some reassurance.
Thanks. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Okay, we'll move on to our action items. Michelle, would you like to move the curriculum agenda items?
Yes, I would like to move the one curriculum item that we have, item number 1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions? Either raise your fist or raise your virtual hand. No. All right, Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Simoresti?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. McFadden Nicola?
Solidarity, yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
Mark, would you like to move the finance items?
Yes, I'll move items 1 through 46.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions and discussion. Make yourself known. Yes, Chris.
So we're moving the mask purchase item today, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I have concerns about, whether there's medical supervision of the choice. I understand this recommendation came from the county, but I think we really need to get into the habit of asking people, including our government agencies, for the scientific justification for each of these choices. In this particular case, I think the original, justification for the recommendation of cloth masks was really based on a shortage of medical grade equipment. And, given that we really need to think of teachers as frontline, on the front line of the struggle with this virus, I really have questions of whether this part of this purchase shouldn't be diverted to medical grade equipment.
Okay, Scott, did you and Mark consider that? And I know it hadn't really occurred to me. So
Yeah.
used to think about, and do we have money for that?
Well,
could we get it from FEMA or CARES or someplace?
I put the responsibility of investigating the integrity of the masks on Janie Mazur's shoulder. She's a high school nurse.
Mm-hmm.
I can't vouch for how much vetting she did, Chris. Yeah, so I'm sorry. No, we didn't go beyond that to evaluate the integrity of the masks.
The overview of the choice, Chris, as I told you privately, was the county's decision for their own employees who were coming into work, and not based on the shortage, but rather on the I'm going to call it the uniformity of a multi-use washable cloth mask. So every person in the district would be issued these, and they would be able to have one mask that they're wearing, one mask that's ready to wash, another one that's or ready to use, and another mask that's being washed. And that's what they determined was the best use of their resources. And given the timing considerations and the prevalence of cloth masks and the literature, which at least reasonably says that the cloth masks with the distancing we're doing are reasonable, that was the discussion we had, and that went to the nurse. But I don't know the cost and the availability. I mean, if we had to buy, for instance, N95, multiple N95 masks, one per week for people, how quickly we'd run out of money.
Maybe we could find out, I mean, not for students, but for staff, since staff are going to be more at risk typically than your average student. Yeah. I mean, maybe we can at least get a quote or something.
Well, we could add Chris, we could add on to that as we did with shields. We're going to be ordering shields for staff, and there's ample evidence in the literature that shields are at least as good as masks. And I wear a mask. I wear a shield.
Right.
And as someone who's had a lot of, contact with the medical field since all this started, like going into New York City straight through the height of the pandemic, and I think there was only once even that my doctor had a face shield, like everyone in that, or an N95 mask, like when it was really at the height. But other than that, I'm there for hours at a time, and everyone is just in regular either cloth or like a surgical mask that you would see. Again, when they were at the height of the pandemic, my oncologist had a mask and a shield and the whole 9 yards, but otherwise that hasn't been the practice even in a medical setting.
Perhaps we could at least consider getting a quote in case there are teachers who really feel more comfortable with that, or for whatever reason, have a particular vulnerability. I mean, wouldn't hurt to ask, right?
I don't have of course I can task somebody to get the quote, but question, should we move on purchasing the masks we're proposing so we are assured we have something in place? If we wait to get a quote and I have the board meeting, the board then come back, and it could be a while till we get those masks in.
This is not this is not a lot of money in the scheme of things. I think we have to have masks on hand.
Let's go forward.
It doesn't preclude, Chris, ordering 250, in addition to 250 shields, it doesn't preclude ordering 250 KN95 or N95 masks.
And if you remember at the beginning of the pandemic, that's what folks were doing. If folks were wearing N95 masks, they were wearing the cotton mask over the N95 mask to extend the life of the N95 mask. So either way, I think the cloth masks are, a necessity. And then if there's an additional necessity for the N95, then we can do that as well.
As long as there's money left over to do this, I'm happy to vote for the cloth mask. But I'd just like to make a point that, this crisis that we're dealing with is one about medical science. And when we're making a decision that's based on medical science, we should have some idea of where the advice is based in, even if it's coming on the county's recommendation. And it bothers me that, we're following the county's recommendation here without actually knowing what medical advice they're using to make that decision. And it might be, in fact, that this advice is really just based on the fact that there's a shortage of the surgical ones.
You know what I'd like to do based on what you're pointing out? We've been working with a doctor from Hackensack Meridian. His name is, I think you may have met him.
Yeah, could we run it by him? I mean, I'm happy to vote for the cloth masks if there's.
Regardless of whether we buy these masks or not, I want to run it by him. So I'll send him the specs on it and see what he has to say.
Linda, after this mass purchase of materials with the CARES Act money, would we still have additional funding left over?
That's Linda. I don't think we would we?
No, the budget that we have set up with the CARES grant used up probably more than what we have. Depending on what we end up getting, that will be covered by FEMA, but
Yeah.
we budgeted for 25% of the cost of things we thought would be reimbursed by FEMA, and then the full cost of things that we know FEMA won't cover. And I think we ended up not getting certain things that we preferred to get because we had to prioritize because the funding is limited. I will comment further though that there is the state did hold back some CARES money, which may come to the district, but we have no idea whether or how much that will be.
Right.
So we have budgeted the total, allocated the total amount that we could conceivably get from FEMA at this point?
Yes. Yes.
I see. I mean, I hate to think about reducing the mask order because.
No, but wait. We have reserves, and let's say we need 250 and 95 masks, and they cost $10 each. That's $2,500 for God's sakes.
Right.
Okay.
We have million, I mean, we have money. But we should see what we need and what we're getting and how good they are and what the doctors. I was at a doctor and they were wearing a cloth mask. 3 months ago, they had a shield and a whole covering on them.
Right. And if they're even available at this point. I mean, we're starting to hear about, lack of supplies again because of what's happening in other parts of the country. So.
So Chris, what I'll do is I'll email Ann and Mark and copy you as well. Maybe I'll just email the three of you what info I get from the Dr. Valajos.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Scott, can you email the entire board that information? I mean, I think we would like to know.
Perfect, yeah.
Good.
Great, good idea, yes.
But we have the money to buy the masks if they're available, and we have the will, and if they're not available, we can buy KN95 masks.
So this purchase of cloth masks does not foreclose all possibility of,
Correct.
All right, so we'll look into that. And in the meantime, I'm going to recommend that we move forward on the cloth masks. And obviously,
would you like me to provide a very quick rundown of what the timetable is for receiving some of our PPE? Or is that something you want me to just directly email?
Email sounds fine, I think, yeah.
Email is good.
Yeah, we're looking at most of our materials coming in August. So we're good shape in terms of sanitizing equipment. And, yeah. Oh, and I have one other follow-up, which we can talk about later, and that's regarding the electrostatic sprayer and airborne.
Do you want to do that now?
What's that?
Do you want to just quickly update us while we're thinking of it?
Community knows, since we're talking openly about some of the equipment we're using. We are using electrostatic sprayers. We've bought a slew of more, so all of our custodians can be equipped with them. And tonight, our facilities director contacted the company that makes the solution called BioEsk that we use, which is, by the way, EPA approved anti-COVID-19. And it does, quote, capture and bring down to the surface airborne particles and eliminates them. So it neutralizes airborne particles. So that's good news.
That's good to hear. Okay.
Yay.
Other comments or questions on finance from anybody? All right, I think we had a motion and a second. So Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Simorasti?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden Nicola?
Yes.
Mr. Rislevich?
No on 41, yes on the remainder.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
All right, personnel. I would like to move items 1 through 57. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Questions? Seeing none, could we have a roll call, please, Linda?
Ms. Simorasti?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes. Wait.
Yeah, you have an abstention.
I have 3 of them. 22. I yes on everything except for 22, 42, and 47.
And what is your vote on those 3?
Those are abstain.
Oh, yeah, you have to conflicted. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
Thank you.
yes on everything, abstain from
Okay.
those three.
Okay.
Sorry. Yep.
Ms. McFadden Nicola,
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Mark, would you like to move the policy items?
Yes, I believe there's only numbers 1 and 2. Let me just check.
You're right.
Roll through. Okay, I'd like to move items 1 and 2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, questions, comments? Put your hands down if you're not raising your hand. Monique, was that your hand or was that?
Oh, no.
All right, it's too much for me. Okay, Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Simoresti,
Yes.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Gowan,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner,
Yes.
Ms. McFadden Nicola,
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
All right, and there are no equity and excellence items, so it is time for our board liaison reports. I'm suspecting that most of us do not have reports. I'm just going to run through. Yes, Scott.
I actually have a report.
Oh my goodness. Okay, why don't you go ahead, and then I'll run through the others.
I'm excited about this because when's the last time I made a report about the library?
Not recently. Go for it.
Just a quick rundown of things. We had a meeting on June 22nd. There was talk about considering lowering the age of a library card without parent guardian signature.
Great.
Down to the age of 10. We reviewed plans for curbside pickup of books, which I believe are in effect. They're just looking to expand that now. There are tables if you go past, Mark, not from very far from where you live.
Across the street from my house, they've taken all the parking away.
I'm not responsible for that, all right?
It's your fault.
We'll see you at council next week, huh, Mark?
And they're also looking at altering the loan period in light of the difficulty of having to pick up books or return books. That's my report.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much. I'm just going to read through the names of all the other committees, and then I'm going to ask people to raise their hands if their committee has, if their commission, committee, whatever, has a report. We've got Municipal Drug and Alcohol, Bureau of Public Information, Highland Park Television, Highland Park Education Foundation, Commission for Universal Access, Public Library, just heard it, Shared Services, Special Ed, Parent Advisory Committee, Parents of Students of Color, Human Relations, Board of Health, Green Team, Cable TV Advisory, Delegate to New Jersey School Boards, and Delegate to Middlesex County School Boards. First hand in the air. Did Darcy raise your hand first, perhaps?
Yes, it was Darcy.
Darcy, what would you like to say about what?
I was just going to say that there was a delegate assembly, but
oh, I'm sorry.
I missed it. So, and I've been looking, but I don't see anything on the website now. So if there was any action taken or anything, I'll send you guys an email and let you know. But I missed it. It was the end of June.
I'm sorry. I dropped the ball too on like preparing for it and looking for it. Yeah. All right. Totally dropped the ball.
I don't think there was anything crucial that was, being considered. So.
Well, perhaps we should have had something, we should have.
We missed much.
I mean, we could have put something on perhaps, but I just wasn't there. Okay, Michelle, you were next. What did you want to report?
Yes, so the the NJSBA sent out a list of webinars that are available to us. I don't know if everyone saw that, but I am going to be attending on Thursday at 11 in the morning. It's going to be a webinar on how to support face-to-face, blended, and remote learning. And if anyone else can make it, it would be great.
That is a great suggestion. Thank you. And thank you for sending around so many notifications, Michelle. It's fantastic. It really.
Thank you for being grateful for that because I'm verging on being annoying, I know.
No. I constantly miss them in the stream of emails. So it's great to have like a particular one pointed out to me. Thank you. Curated by Michelle. It's fantastic. Anybody else have a committee or commission who would like to make a report?
Well, the Ed Foundation did meet in June, so I guess that's since our last meeting. Scott, correct me if most of the discussion that night was really Scott was trying to keep the committee informed as to what a lot of the things that actually we're talking about tonight. I don't think there was anything out of that we needed to review. Can you recall, Scott?
Yeah, well, the only thing that I should share is, frankly, my suggestion to the group that they hold off on awarding grants until we have a better handle on what
Right.
it's going to look like. And I think they agreed.
Right. Right. In fact, we're talking about, or part of that discussion was instead of doing the normal kind of fall and spring grants, maybe being open to doing grants more regularly as the needs arise.
Yeah, like a rolling.
Right. Right.
Oh, wonderful. Very cool. Other committees, commissions? Nothing? Okay. I have no president's report. Does anybody have any old business? Does anybody have any new business that can be addressed in the confines of a meeting at 10:30? I mean, I'm thinking if you have like a really big point, maybe we should start some small group discussions and not, but just speak up. If you have any new business, I don't want to deter anybody. All right. Public comment. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policies 164 and 167 establish and regulate the right of the public to participate in public meetings. If you are a member of the public and would like to raise your virtual hand or unmute your video and wave frantically at the camera, we would love to hear from you. I'm gonna just give it 30 seconds here so people can get their Zooms working. All right, close enough. Okay, no public comment at this time. I'd like to move that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Good night.
Good night. Aye. Hey, Michelle and Rob, can you stay home for, Rob Ruslevich, can you
Night,
stay back for a
everyone.
sec? Michelle and Rob, where are you?